Welcome in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad to have you with us. It is Tuesday, May 20th. Jocks 94.5 SEC baseball tournament begins today, 9:30 a.m. The Alabama Crimson Tide takes the field against Missouri. Keep you updated on that one towards the back end of the show. A lot of college football to discuss today as well. All the lists continue to pour out. Now, the real lists will begin in a month or so. You think we'll start getting our watch lists, which really mean that's when you know the season's here. The season's right around the corner. But now we're getting the top this, top that. I actually had a top list yesterday. Put on my top 5 SEC running back rooms. Believe it or not, Greg, the LSU fans were most angry with me for not having them in my top 5.
But what I'm trying to figure out is they didn't run the ball.
Nor do I think they will this year.
So what would warrant top 5 inclusion? Usually, like at school,
names.
You know what? I think I would have been a top 5 on the debate team, but I never joined it. I think I would have been top 5 in the golf team, but never played it. Like, it's great to assume something, but you actually have to put it into practice to figure out whether or not you actually could be top 5. Okay, that's usually the way things work.
Sometimes, not always. Sometimes you just say, this guy had a really good run one time, and so he should be there.
Yeah, he did score a touchdown against South Carolina. Don't forget that. And that was a good defense.
I was more surprised with
that's all that matters.
The LSU fans' frustration of not that I didn't include a true freshman running back, which I think that's not something that would necessarily move the meter that much on my rankings, because I'm going to go with proven commodities. But also that Caden Durham not included was the main reason for their frustration, which I think Caden Durham's a solid back. We've seen him do some special things. The problem is we've only seen him do that 3 or 4 times.
He's fine.
Nothing wrong with him.
Not top 5 back.
Yeah, you tell me. Are you putting him ahead of Jaden Ball? You putting him ahead of Contravian Wisner, Moss or Owens, Jam Miller, Nate Frazier? I mean, I'm not putting him ahead of those guys. I don't know if and C.J. Baxter. That's.
I wouldn't put him ahead of C.J. Baxter.
Jacoby Jackson, Ruben Owens,
Le'Veon Moss.
Probably not. If he's healthy, no. Amari Daniels, maybe not. I've seen him do more. Hit over 100 carries last year. So. The one sort of if that I did use outside of projections of younger guys was guys being healthy. Like the A&M group, Ruben Owens, Le'Veon Moss, they need to be healthy to be a top 5 group.
Can confirm, yes. Huge if for everybody, though, there.
You know, but they've got Jamarian Morrow coming in, a kid from Memphis where you were last night, visiting with our friends there.
Answer me this. Who would you rather have? The transfer Rasul Faishon at South Carolina based on proven college experience, or LSU's situation? Different level. I get it.
Yeah. It's tough because
Answer me this.
You have the number 1 back in Louisiana who is a top 5 back in the country. Maybe he ends up being great. Maybe he can't hold on to the ball. We don't know.
Yet.
Right. So
Nate Frazier was an all-world 5-star last year and didn't play because he couldn't hold on to the football and couldn't pass protect. All right, so that's one. Remove the freshman. He hasn't played. Secondly, answer me this. Who would you rather have? Fluff Bothwell or LSU's situation? Based on college experience. Who would you rather have? Jaden Ott or LSU? Based on college experience.
Yeah, Oklahoma was the group that I'm fine complaining. They have a solid room. When you talk about, you mentioned Jaden Ott coming in, Javonte Barnes is fairly proven as a college football player. Now, I don't think that he is super dynamic at all and a game changer by any way, but he's more than reliable. So you have a couple of guys there that are somewhat proven commodities, and you and I both love Jaden Ott. He's not necessarily your breakaway guy, but he's a hammer, and I think he's a guy that can help control a game. So I would be fine with Oklahoma fans saying, why not us? I would be great there.
But based on last year, Jaden Ott was really banged up and wasn't the same guy as he was the year before. So
as
I think
was your entire offensive line, which we don't know if you're going to be able to have time to hand the ball off.
Whoa. Handoffs happen pretty quick.
Yeah. I've seen some get blown up at the point of attack and that ball get busted out.
It's because the center got his tail whipped.
I like the Davin Booth kid, too, from Mississippi State that was at Utah State. You mentioned Fluff. Like their group's not bad. I thought it was better last year. It's not a top 5 group. That was one that complained. But most of the complaints came from LSU fans. And I get it. If you just watch the highlight reel of Caden Durham, he's awesome. Caleb Jackson, same thing. Caleb Jackson's given us a couple crazy spin moves. He's given us a couple of hurdles and stiff arms, and he knocked a DB in Starkville like all the way to the bench. It's great, but consistently he hasn't even been on the field. So I can't say that he pushes you up to being one of the top 5 rooms in the league.
I think in order to be a top 5 room, you have to have at least one dude, at least 2 guys. At least 2.
You got to have one guy that I know can take over a game.
Well,
that we can lean on and say, like Jaden Baugh, I think is going to be able to take over again. I think Jacoby Jackson might be able to also. I think Weisner can. I think Baxter, if healthy, is going to be able to. Moss Owens, we've seen them do it. I think Jam Miller can do it. I love Dre Washington, the kid Alabama's getting from Louisiana. I'm a big fan of his. Now, I don't think he is.
No, didn't have enough stars, though.
I mean, I don't think he's Sean Alexander breaking away, taking him to the house from a long distance, but I think he's got some of that in him. I think he gets to full speed quickly, and he runs with power and authority. So you got Richard Young, your hammer. Maybe Daniel Hill's great. We don't really know.
They really liked Richard Young going into last year. Like they were very excited about him. When he got banged up, that was an unfortunate outcome because he was going to be. Remember what they had at Washington? They had Dylan Johnson, who, while didn't have much wiggle, he's running through the brick wall. Like he's going to get downhill, and he doesn't. He's not a guy that's going to make you miss. He's going to make you feel him. And there's a lot to like about backs like that. An era in which people are progressively getting softer in all walks of life, I might add. I think having a running back in an era where we don't tackle live, but twice a year, having a running back that will run through contact is of the utmost importance. And I think that's a good bet on trying to maximize how many guys like that you have. So I think Bama's group's actually quite good. I like their backs a lot. My biggest question were related to the run game at Bama is the quarterback's involvement. Because last year, the quarterback was heavily involved in the run game. This year, how much are they going to be willing to run Ty if, in fact, it is Ty? Probably a decent amount, given the fact that they feel pretty decent about guys 2 and 3 on the depth chart right now. But at the same time, I think that's my biggest question is not so much the running back room and the run game in general, but what's the quarterback's involvement this year?
Yep. And I do think last year, too, I didn't realize it as much until I began this practice of just how much maybe the quarterback took away from the running back room. You and I both know a lot of the reads were kept maybe when they shouldn't have been. Some of the RPOs thrown when maybe they shouldn't have been. I mean, there were a lot of opportunities that this group could have had last year that they just flat out didn't get. They just flat out weren't able to show what they're capable of. And with an offense, too, that was a little bit inconsistent in owning its identity, I think that worked against them as well. How many times did we see them lean on the backs? Second half of Wisconsin, a Missouri game.
Yeah.
When else? I mean, when else did that group say, let's let our running backs just end this game or take over this game?
Not enough.
So we don't, there's a part of it that we don't even know what they are. I feel pretty good about them. I've got it in my top 5, but I looked at it a little bit differently after this practice of going back and peeking at some film and looking at some numbers. And I just kind of thought, man, these dudes might be a lot better than a lot of people are thinking because they weren't given the opportunities to show us what they're made of.
Yeah. And
an offensive line that didn't play great all the time. Sometimes did, but sometimes just flat wasn't very good.
Yeah. And another thing too, as it relates to the running backs, like what are running backs most proud of? Like just knowing the personalities. Like they want to find pay dirt, right? Like they want to score touchdowns. Running backs like scoring touchdowns. You ask any running back, like, what's more fun, scoring a 1-yard touchdown or breaking away untouched at 60 yards? They're going to tell you the 1-yard hard-fought touchdown. Like, running backs are just wired that way. I don't know a single one that isn't. Now, don't get me wrong. It's fun to make people look silly and dance and wiggle and break guys' ankles and all that great stuff. That's awesome. But I think a lot of running backs are wired to want to score touchdowns. How often were they given touches inside the 10-yard line last year? How often did they go quarterback sweep to keep Jalen happy as opposed to just allowing the running back to pay off the drive that he rightfully earned? When you have a strong personality at quarterback and also a super dynamic quarterback at that, I think they took away from the running backs in a lot of ways last year. And I think giving those guys more red zone touches is going to keep that room more engaged, and it's going to lead to a better production across the board.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of different ways you can look at it, a lot of different ways that it can go. And, we'll see how different it is this year. And obviously, hear from you, 800-239-9569. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. Running back rooms in the SEC. You look at Alabama's. Is that one that you have a lot of confidence in this year? It was interesting kind of looking at Auburn's too, Greg, because I think they're kind of B+ across the board. I think they're solid, maybe 3-4 deep. I just don't know if they have a guy that can take over a game or that we feel like has the ability to be a game changer. And they had that last year. They just didn't use it last year. Speaking of not using the backs that you have, how many times we came in here on Monday saying Jarquez Hunter 9 carries, Jarquez Hunter 12 carries. It felt like the Kentucky game was the only one that they just said, all right, have at it. Let's go eat. Let's go see what you got. And he wasn't given that opportunity. Now, do I think they have a Jarquez on this team? No. But I think if some of the other things work out the way that they could, they have plenty enough to be able to make it go from that position. If they see lighter boxes and they have legitimate threats down the field, you add some quarterback run that has to be defended. All of those could lead to these running backs having good seasons. I just don't know if they have, a Stephen Davis, a James Bostic, a Rudy Johnson in that backfield.
I think it's a pretty underwhelming group. But then again, what if the freshman materializes? What if Alvin Henderson ends up being a really good player, or Omar Mabson? Like, what if those guys end up being great? I think you're going to see a committee approach, and let's be real, the offensive line play improving is going to be massive when it comes to running the football. They're not going to try to get by smoke and mirrors like they did last year and have to read everything because you don't trust your left tackle to actually stand and get off on the snap. How confident are you running inside zone left against, I don't know, Georgia, when your left tackle literally can't even get in a stance? He's so overweight. Like, what? What are we doing? So you read everything and you hope for the best. But I think there were too many complexities last year because there was not enough trust in the offensive line until the last 2 games of the year.
It's totally fair. All right, coming up on the show today, Pat Forty with us in our next segment, going to talk about a college football rivalry that could be going away. It would not be great news for a lot of people. I just think for the game in general, it would not be great news. We'll discuss that. Moose Johnson of the USFL, XFL division is going to join us and talk playoffs and who he thinks is going to end up in the UFL championship game. Get an idea of what that picture is going to look like. Obviously, the situation with the Stallions playing at home. That's at 9 a.m. Kyle Peterson's going to preview the SEC tournament at 9:30 when the SEC tournament actually begins. So a busy show for you today, a lot to get to, more college football as well, a couple other lists that we want to reference, want to talk about. We'll get all that and more, but one thing you need to know first is about Game Day Men's Health. Game Day Men's Health is where you need to go if you're not getting good sleep, if you feel on edge. Game Day Men's Health wants to help you with that. Maybe you've got low energy or brain fog on a regular basis. They can help you. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Sign up for a free consultation. You get a free PSA test, free testosterone test, and find out the baseline of where your health is. Maybe it's just weight loss. They have peptides that can help with that. They have other medications they can help you with, other programs to put you on that can help get the weight off at Game Day Men's Health. It is a holistic approach to health and wellness with a locker room environment and feel, low stress, not going to try to push you into programs that you don't need, and minimal upfront costs from the programs that they offer. Book your free consultation today at GameDayMen'sHealth.com and save 10% on any service they offer by mentioning Mac and Cube in the morning. When we come back, Pat Forty on a rivalry that could be gone soon. Next, Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 7:18, Tuesday, May 20th, right here on Jocks 94.5. SEC baseball tournament begins today. The 9-seed Alabama Crimson Tide take on the 16-seed Missouri 9:30. Oklahoma, Kentucky after that. Florida, South Carolina after that. Mississippi State and Texas A&M are the late game. Are there showers in the forecast? Do we know today?
No, I think we're good today.
This will be pushed
yeah,
back.
knock on wood. I mean,
good.
famous last words there.
Okay. No famous last words from Pat Forty. We just want to hear his first words. An article up now on Notre Dame and USC potentially ending. And with all the realignment and all the different scheduling models that have been proposed and are being discussed, Pat, it's no surprise that some of these games are going to be difficult to hold on to. But this is one that I don't think anybody would have ever thought would realistically be at a true risk of being gone. What is at the forefront of this game as to why it actually may not continue?
Yeah, Cole, it would be a shocker and I think a real shame if this game went by the wayside. What it basically seems to boil down to is USC's reluctance to continue to play mid-season or late-season games against Notre Dame that require the same kind of travel as all of their Big Ten road games. And, they on the years when they play in South Bend, they play in mid-October, which is obviously in the middle of conference season. And if you're adding that trip to going to Ann Arbor, State College, Maryland, Rutgers, whatever the case may be, that's another travel trip they don't really feel like taking on. Of course, the reality is this is the bed USC made for itself. They knew what they were getting into going into the Big Ten, and if they choose to take this rivalry out as a byproduct of that, that's just, I think, another way in which USC's kind of giving up its own identity of what it's always stood for.
Well, help me understand this, though, Pat. I mean, I obviously look at the circumstances surrounding this. I think it's remarkably uncomfortable as someone that grew up watching that game. It always seems like it's kind of a finger-pointing process where, well, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. And then they could still make it work, but they won't because there's just too many egos involved. We saw it happen with Texas and Texas A&M. We've seen it happen with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. They can still play the game. They just choose not to. Look at Washington State and Washington. They're still playing their game. Oregon State. They're still playing their game. It feels like sometimes it's a little bit of a he said, she said. So have you noticed that at all with this rivalry, or are there greater circumstances involved?
No, without a doubt. I think that you're right on there. That this is a classic one of those where each side wants to tell you exactly how wrong the other side is, and well, if you really understood what we offered and they turned down, the kind of the behind the scenes intrigue. There's no doubt there's ego involved, and you've got to talk to this person. Don't come talk to me. Blah blah blah. It's a classic college sports kind of standoff. One of the things I was told that USC has offered as a potential workaround is, well, let's play at the beginning of the season, and as it was put to me, as one of the kickoff kind of games. Which, okay, maybe you play some on campus, but you're also sprinkling in Las Vegas or Arlington or, who knows, the new Bears Stadium, whatever the case may be. But, again, there you are giving up a lot of what this rivalry has always been. They have always played at the end of the season, and since 1961, always played at the end of the season in Los Angeles, and since 1961 have always played midseason in South Bend. And, I think that to me, it's incumbent upon USC to make this work. And there's a lot of speculation that this is Lincoln Riley saying what he said about other non-conference matchups. I don't want to play it. It might be too hard. And if you look at the trajectories of the two programs right now, Notre Dame was 14-2 last year and played for a national championship. USC went 7-6 and went 4-5 in the Big Ten.
That would be disappointing for a lot of folks if that's the actual mindset of why you would lose a game of this magnitude and with this historic significance. Does this sort of open your eyes to some others and maybe made you sort of peek around college football to say, man, I hope this doesn't become a trend, but I could see this rivalry, this team, that team potentially heading this direction as well?
Oh, sure. I think that's the concern here, and especially – look, let's look at those SEC, ACC rivalry games at the end of the year and whether they could be in jeopardy if the SEC adds a ninth game and then they want to add a regular rotation of SEC versus Big Ten games or something like that. And all of a sudden is Florida State expendable, Georgia Tech, Clemson, South Carolina, Kentucky, Louisville. Those would be terrible games to lose. And I hope it doesn't come to that. But as we've seen, and you pointed out, look, everything has been disposable. To lose the Bedlam series, Oklahoma State is terrible. To have West Virginia and Pitt not playing every year, I think, is terrible. And it goes to the point of where people are saying, well, it's just nothing we could do. Our hands were tied. No, to Greg's point, you can find a way if you want to, and we'll see how much they want to do it here. Because to me, this is truly one of the great rivalries. It's the only last great intersectional rivalry, and it just meant so much in terms of national championship, prestige, Heisman Trophy winners. This rivalry has had everything you could ever want, and for it to just vanish would really be a bad sign, I think, for the state of things.
It would be remarkably unfortunate. Looking at kind of where USC is going, I can't imagine a scenario where Lincoln Riley's involved in this. That would be just. I understand how you can loosely connect the dots, but there are some. They're very outspoken Oklahoma fans that still have some bad blood for whatever reason. But help me understand where USC's going this year. I'm having a hard time getting a sense. I actually think they're going to be quite good, but I'm not 100% sure if a playoff run is within reach. So how can USC kind of bounce back here this season?
Yeah, great question. I mean, the league is as tough as we've probably ever seen the Big Ten. You know, Penn State should be excellent. Ohio State will be excellent again. Michigan will be better than last year, presumably. Oregon's still going to be really good. Wisconsin will be better. Illinois looks like a sleeper. So you got all that, and you've got, a USC team that I agree. I mean, on paper, I think they've helped themselves. I think they've got better players. We'll see about the quarterback play, but Lincoln Riley can almost always make a quarterback productive. They have gotten a little better and a little tougher on the interior. I think especially defensively when they brought in D'Anton Lynn as their defensive coordinator, and they've got a chance to be improved. But yeah, how much improved can you be in a league where it's looking like the SEC, where you can be a good team and still get your teeth kicked in 4 times a year?
Pat, I want to leave you with this. Just going back to this Notre Dame and USC situation. Who can make this happen? Who is most responsible, I guess, for potentially not allowing this to take place? Who's the one entity, person, side of this that could step up and say, okay, this is going to happen. This needs to take place to get this done?
It's USC, I think. Notre Dame's made it clear we want to play every single year forever. Is what basically Pete Bavacqua said, the AD, what he told me. And so it's USC. Okay, the ball's in your court. You want to play forever or not? And if so, make it happen. And they're offered a 1-year extension of the contract now. Just sign a new contract. We want to play at the beginning of the year. We want to move it around. No, you know what? Man up and do what they've always done in terms of playing this rivalry. So I think this very much is sitting in USC's lap to say. Notre Dame has pretty well made it clear, I believe, what they want to do, and we'll see if USC wants to come to the table and agree.
Well, we appreciate you sharing your thoughts on it. Great article up now, which we'll try to tag in our Twitter feed, get the people to get up there and go see it and read it. Thanks for hopping on with us this morning.
All right, my pleasure, guys. Thank you.
There you go, Pat Forty, joining us on the Higginbotham hotline with some potential news that I don't think anybody wants to see. And you can follow Pat on Twitter at @bypat40. Find his work at si.com. That article up now. This is, I hate to say this, Greg, but this is kind of a byproduct of where we're going with college football.
Yeah.
The conferences are going to need more items to sell. They're going to need more inventory to dole out to up their revenue. That's going to include removing non-conference games. The more of those you take away, the less luxury you have to go play different ones. Now, in reference to where Pat went way down the road of the Florida State, Kentucky, Louisville, South Carolina, Clemson, I think those would be last to go. But when we talked about this with the SEC adding another game, and then those teams already have that game there. If one more comes into play, now you're in trouble there. And with the way Notre Dame operates their schedule, the couple of games that they're definitely going to play every year, we don't know what the Big Ten necessarily is saying or pushing as to where it needs to go or what they want to be. But it sounds a little bit more realistic that the tone from inside the USC athletic department of we're tired of playing all these hard games is a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's not crazy surprising. It's still a little surprising.
I think to hear it that way is, though.
To me, it feels a little bit far-fetched. I mean, Lincoln Riley isn't. I mean, I know that he has a perception. I don't think it's entirely accurate to think that he is now navigating things behind the scenes to go out of his way to make situation easier. Like when he was at Oklahoma, they went toe-to-toe with Georgia. When he was at Oklahoma, they played and beat Tennessee. Like, it's not like they shied away from quality non-conference games when he was at Oklahoma. I mean, this is not I understand that you can loosely connect the dots. I get that. There's plenty that has been said about his lack of willingness to want to compete in the SEC with Oklahoma and recruit against the SEC with Oklahoma. Are they real or not? I don't know, because I'm hearing it from the Oklahoma side. So sorry, but it's a little hard for me to listen to that and not take what's been said with a slight grain of salt as it relates to Oklahoma.
It's fair. It's totally fair.
I think it's a little low hanging fruit, but it would be wild if, in fact, he has that much power to where he, after 2 seasons of pretty mediocre, or 3 seasons now of pretty mediocre play, with the exception of year 1, has the power to completely revolutionize how they schedule their non-conference. I don't see it.
Tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Well, Polar Bear Services, Wes and the guys have been terrific. They were actually at our house this weekend. Had some challenges with my AC, and I texted Weston on Friday night, said this is kind of the Polar Bear Services trifecta. Our ice maker's not working, our AC is not working in the master bedroom, and hey, guess what? Just for good measure, we have a water fixture outside that's struggling as well. So, I mean, what does Weston do? Sends a group out. It's like the all hands on deck on Saturday, and it really was amazing to see just how quickly they were able to help me out, and just how far they're willing to go to make sure that everything in your home is working properly. I will always be grateful because of my friendship with Weston. I will always be grateful to the services that I receive from Polar Bear Services. And like I said, they can do so many different things for you. I had electrical problems with the ice maker. I had plumbing issues with the shower, and I had HVAC issues in the master bedroom. All 3 were taken care of within a couple hours of calling Polar Bear Services. So remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
All right, when we come back, we'll follow up a little bit on this. Rivalries that are already gone that we wish would be back. Rivalries that we could see potentially being in jeopardy down the road. And as we've said before, rivalries are critical for the health of this sport moving forward. And we don't want to see them go away, specifically this one. Next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:35, Tuesday, May 20th, Jocks 94.5. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, Greg. Texas and Texas A&M went through this. We've got that one back now, which is fantastic.
Back.
Bedlam gone. We've seen a couple other rivalry games around college football that are no longer with us, and we don't know if they're going to come back. Do you look ahead and feel like what is being discussed with Notre Dame and USC right now, potentially being gone, is this a more common problem potentially in the future than we see? Are there certain games that you look at and say, it's going to be tough to hold on to that one? I don't know if we're going to be able to keep that one or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to think that doesn't go by the wayside. I mean, what's the number one thing in our sport is rivalries. I mean, and there's absolutely no reason why Oklahoma can't play Oklahoma State. Like literally, there's no reason why that can't happen. It should be prioritized.
Do we have a good feel of who is responsible for that one?
Equal. But honestly, probably more Oklahoma than Oklahoma State, if I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know all the details on it, but I get the sense that Gundy, who's been there for 20 plus years, knows, and I'd love to take my shot at those guys every year. Why wouldn't you, if you're Oklahoma State, why wouldn't you want to play Oklahoma?
Absolutely.
I would 100% want that. Invite that. Welcome that. We have been left behind. We're in the Big 12. Like, I want badly to play Oklahoma. I'd love nothing more than to get them on my field and remind them, hey, guess what? We're still here and we don't need you. So I would think Oklahoma's probably the one. But there's probably a little bit of frustration from Oklahoma State side too. Like, hang on a second, you're leaving us out to dry and you're just off and running to the Big 12 from the Big 12 to the SEC. I'm sure there's a little frustration on their side. So
I can imagine both. Yeah,
I'd say they're mutually at fault, but it's all egos. Like, figure it out. They do what's right. It's not that hard. I mean, the same thing can be said for Texas and Texas A&M for a million years. That was absolutely with 100% certainty egos. Oh, well, you don't need them if you're a Texas fan. Oh, well, we don't need them. We're in the SEC now. If you're an A&M fan, figure it out. Missouri, Kansas. Oh, not that there's a ton of people that care outside of Missouri and Kansas about that game, but it's an important rivalry game to the fan bases. So figure it out. I've just never understood why we allow feelings to be hurt in sports. Figure it out.
Well, and part of it too, you have to, let's take a little bit more of the realistic approach of, as these conferences expand and teams go to more difficult conferences and you look at those non-conference schedules on top of that, there is a portion of it that's understandable to say, hey, we can't keep stacking all these games each and every week with what we're already playing.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that, okay, well, just make sure you leave room for the one every year and get that one done. I agree with you. That should happen. It feels like common sense. It feels like the right thing to do, the smart thing to do for a lot of reasons. I mean, you play Bedlam every year. You don't think that you're going to be able to churn some revenue from that game? I mean, is that not a home game that would sell out for both teams?
I would assume.
All right, if we're all about finding more revenue, that's one that feels like it would make money, both to be on television and to get people in the seats. But
it's not about making money. It's about making, we don't need them. Look how independent we are. Yeah.
How independent we are. You would think that the mindset that you kind of bring up there would be applicable for both, in that, yes, Oklahoma State would want that shot. They'd want the shot at Big Brother to say, hey, you didn't bring us with you. We're going to show you we can still play ball. We're going to show you what we still got. But on the flip side, if you're Oklahoma, you want to say, yeah, here's why we left you behind.
Yeah.
Here's why we don't need you. We're good. We're in the SEC now. We didn't have to bring you along. We were tired of babysitting, and you show them every year. But it is weird in college football sometimes that we are more scared of the potential negative than positive. And this feels like it happens a lot. I mean, it's in some of the rules that we make, some of the mindsets that we have, is just we're so much more terrified of what potentially could go wrong and the embarrassment that we feel would come with that, as opposed to just saying, let's just go get it. Let's figure it out.
You don't say.
And when it comes down to just, hey, we need to make more money. We need more revenue. We're begging our fans for more money. And then there are ways right in front of you where you can easily go out and make more money that you choose not to partake in. That's the part that I just don't think I'll ever be able to understand.
Correct.
Figure out a neutral site if you have to. Go play it somewhere. Just get it done. It doesn't feel like it's that difficult. And I would hate to see Notre Dame-USC go away. I would hate it.
Yeah, it'd be terrible. It'd be a huge bummer. It'd be a huge bummer, but it just makes no sense. That one to me is one of those that should be protected universally. I mean, I just don't get why that's a game that can't be played. I mean, it'd be like Notre Dame Navy not being played. It just feel odd. Like they have to play. Like that one matters too much. And okay, so Notre Dame, they pride themselves on playing a West Coast trip every year. That West Coast trip is handled by Stanford every other year. Stanford aligns with their core values as they're also in the ACC now, so it makes a lot of sense. But what the heck are we doing in the off year? Are they now going to, in spite of SC, go and schedule some type of neutral non-conference in LA? It's in their bylaws to play on the West Coast every year.
Yeah. One.
Who are you going to play? Oh, hey, you think
Pac-12
Washington will step
games.
up? Oregon State? Perfect. Because that's where all the SC alumni live.
Saying they'll play.
All the SC, all the Notre Dame alumni are in Corvallis.
Probably a lot are in the Stanford area.
Some.
You do have an ACC agreement.
That's true. They're going to be there every other year.
And it is odd in the article, both say that they have agreed to an extension. It's just USC won't agree to a long-term extension. And they cite the uncertainty of the future of the college football playoff model, which who's not dealing with that right now?
About to say, get in line.
But also been proven that playing a more difficult schedule doesn't necessarily knock you out. Doesn't mean you're done.
Correct.
So I just think it's sad that
It's
we
ridiculous.
can't look at the bigger picture here and some people just not step up for the greater good of college football.
But it's always finger pointing. Think about if they canceled the Iron Bowl. I know it's not quite the same. SC and Notre Dame fans don't coexist on a daily basis. So they don't live in the hotbed of college football. I get that. So no one's trying to compare the two outside of the fact that the game it belongs on the calendar. It would feel uncomfortable if the game wasn't on the calendar. Imagine if they canceled Auburn and Alabama. You know exactly what would be said. Alabama would say, "Oh, we don't need it." Auburn would say, "Oh, see, they're we know exactly how the dynamic would work." It'd be ridiculous. It'd be stupid. It'd be constant finger pointing, and it would make no sense. Think about if you're a fan of one of these organizations. How can you not play your biggest rival? I just will never understand that. It makes no sense. And it never will.
If this game goes away, because we've talked about this before, I can remember Domer chiming in on this. If this game goes away, who is then USC's biggest rivalry game every year? It's UCLA?
Yes.
Because no one put UCLA in that picture when we had that discussion. Everybody said it was Notre Dame.
No, I would say UCLA. I would say UCLA is SC's biggest rival right now. I mean,
I think there's a lot of USC people that wouldn't agree with that.
That's fair because they have a superiority complex. There's also a lot of Alabama people that think LSU is the biggest rival.
Or Tennessee.
No.
What
Nobody
about
thinks that.
what about from Notre Dame's perspective? There's a lot of Notre Dame folks that say this is their biggest rival. No?
I would agree that this is Notre Dame's biggest rival.
And now that could be gone.
Especially their biggest rival that they play annually.
That's what I mean.
By a mile.
I don't think
Navy
you can have a
doesn't fit
biggest
that
rival
bill.
that you don't play every year.
Well, you could. It's just a little more uncomfortable. For example,
who's their biggest rival that they play every year now? Army, if this goes away?
Navy would be number one. And that would be or Stanford, I suppose. Those would be the two. But I think if you're looking at it holistically, like who do Notre Dame fans hate the most? It's probably either Michigan or Miami. Like, so if we're looking at
have Notre Dame and Miami even played?
I don't know why they hate each other so much.
No, I know why they
Catholics
hate each
versus
other.
convicts. I get it, but,
yeah, but
Michigan would be right there, number one, followed closely. I think the sheer significance of the hatred with Miami is significant. So I would say those are probably their top 2 least favorite programs.
They've played 26 times.
That's a lot.
Miami owns a current win streak of 1.
Mm.
They haven't played since 17.
I remember it, Brad Kaya.
It's not a rivalry. They can hate each other, but it's not a rivalry.
Has a name.
It's not. I just think it's
the
odd.
Iron Bowl of South Bend, Miami. Not South Beach.
If you say so. I mean, I don't know if I look at it that way. I don't know if I feel that way about it, but I do know how to add some value for you guys here on WJOX. I'll introduce you to our friend and wealth advisor, Tad Hill, your trusted retirement planning partner. Tad, the co-host of the Retire with Freedom radio and TV shows in Birmingham and Huntsville, also has been designated by Forbes as the #1 financial securities professional in the state of Alabama multiple years running. Tad, what do you have for us today?
Thanks, Cole. Today I want to talk about something that's usually on everyone's mind, and that is taxes. How do we reduce our tax burden as much as we possibly can? And one of the things that many of you probably don't know is that taxes are actually on sale right now. When the current laws sunset, taxes are going to go up. So if you've got a lot of tax deferred money, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, when that money comes out, it's going to get taxed at your highest marginal tax rate. If you've never had anyone analyze if you can get that money into tax-free accounts like Roth IRAs, we cover how to do that in detail in our retirement course that we teach at our office on Valleydale Road. If you'd like to sign up for the next course, text JOX, J-O-X, to 205-988-0006, 988-0006.
This is a paid placement. Investment advisory services are made available through AE Wealth Management. For more information about Forbes rankings, visit Forbes.com.
Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. It is 7:50, Tuesday, May 20th, right here on JOX 94.5. And we've had a conversation about some rivalry games, Notre Dame-USC, potentially on the brink of extinction. And you were right. I will give you credit. The team that Notre Dame has played the most would be Navy all time. 97 games between the two. Now, that would give you credence in that is their biggest rival after USC. if that's where you wanted to go with it. Because USC would be next with 95 games. The problem with that would be the overall record.
Yes.
83-13-1, Notre Dame Navy. Some people would push back on that and say that's not a rivalry. Sorry, it just isn't. But, and is it great for college football moving forward that would become Notre Dame's biggest rivalry? You look at games like Michigan, 38 times those teams have played. You brought them up. That's an important one. Army, 50 times. You brought that one up. That's an important one. Stanford, just 38 times. Miami, they've played 27 times. So you begin to look at kind of where some of those fall, and now you're going to get more games between Wisconsin, who you've played 17 times, and Nebraska, who you've played 16 times, and Indiana, who you've played 26 times. I'm sure Indiana would like that game a little bit more often.
I would think that Indiana would love to have that game, but I don't think if I were Indiana, I don't think if I were Notre Dame, I'd be real inclined to have that one on the schedule.
Is there a team out there that doesn't have that mindset that you just mentioned, truly? Like deep down?
No.
There's no team that just says, we really, really don't care. We'll play you. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, Florida State back in the day. I think most schools that are probably the smaller of the two in the state have that mentality. Amongst the blue bloods, nah. Because there's nothing to be gained as a blue blood. If you're Notre Dame, blue blood. Nah.
What's to gain, though, Greg, is to prove that you are what you say you are.
But you don't have to do that.
Who do you think you are? I am.
You don't have to do that. Perception already gives you the benefit of the doubt. The only way to change the status quo is to offer an opportunity to change the status quo. What if, for whatever reason, I'm not saying that this would ever happen, Cody Rhodes decided not to wrestle in WrestleMania? Still be the champ. I think we've seen that happen.
They could find a way to get the
I'm
belt
pretty sure we've seen that happen when Vince made them 3-count tap somebody that wasn't ready to give up and relinquish the belt.
Bret Hart.
Thank you. I can't remember who it was. For whatever reason, I was thinking.
You don't think you can come up with some dumb rule that says, by technicality, so-and-so loses his belt, and now these two will wrestle for it? I mean,
probably a bad example. I'm not sure exactly why.
I understand where you're going.
I'm not sure
though.
why I used the WWE, considering that is.
You could say it in boxing, UFC. I mean, there would be legalities where if you went a certain amount of time and didn't wrestle, didn't fight, that
Floyd Mayweather,
you'd have to give it up.
Floyd Mayweather, perfect example.
If I'm not mistaken, Floyd lost one or two because he refused to defend them at certain times.
Well,
because he got to the point where he didn't care about the belts anymore. He just wanted the paydays. So
he also wouldn't fight anybody that was actually good and or in their prime. And that's no disrespect to Floyd. That's smart business. You already have the perception as an undefeated all-time great. Why would you put yourself in harm's way? Why would you do? Yeah, I'll fight Conor McGregor. Yeah, perfect. A trained MMA guy that's now going to have to box. That makes great sense. I'll fight Manny Pacquiao. Yeah, 10 years after Manny Pacquiao's was actually decent. It's pure avoidance, and it's not a bad thing. It's smart. It's self-preservation.
I will say I don't think Manny Pacquiao was completely innocent in that either. I think he played the good guy in that role, but there were some financial discrepancies in which he wanted things leaned and hit to his side, and they couldn't get it done.
So he wanted his deer antler spray before the workout, before the stupid fight, whatever. I don't care what it was. I don't care what the circuit. I'm not blaming Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm just
100%.
suggesting that if perception already gives you the benefit of the doubt, why would you put yourself in harm's way potentially?
If you're Alabama, say why not?
If you're Alabama, if you're Georgia, if you're Notre Dame, if you're USC, if you're already the big kid on the block, if you're Texas, why would you subject yourself to the possibility of people changing their mind about your superiority? Now, as a competitor, give me a little brother. I'm going to remind him who daddy is every single time. But
because you take
as a businessman, I think we're good there.
Well, then some of those that we've discussed earlier come back to where, as a businessman, it's also dumb, bedlam per se. That doesn't make sense either way. Whether one doesn't want the other for whatever reasons, the business portion of it makes sense. We could argue Alabama UAB from a business perspective, but my mindset would be, It's better for the greater good, and you are who you say you are. It shouldn't be a problem.
I don't disagree.
Jacksonville State, Alabama A&M, Alabama State, whoever, it shouldn't be a problem. South Alabama, Troy, shouldn't be a problem.
But what is it that has allowed Warren Buffett to elevate to one of the top people of all time when it comes to business and finance?
Locomotives.
Risk aversion.
Oh. Trains crash?
Now, granted, don't get me wrong. There's been plenty of risks that he's taken in his career. But, like, he believes in buy and hold, blue blood, long-term plays with consumer items that he actually uses. Like, I think that there are a lot of people that have gotten very wealthy by avoiding risk. And there are a lot of programs that have built an identity off of avoiding risk and being great for a long time 35 years ago.
So you're telling me I should dump my entire savings on pizza, Nike, and Apple today?
And Coca-Cola.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2 underway. I'm going to open up the phones for you guys now and continue this conversation, because when we hear about these rivalry games going away, it begins to make us think about some of the other things happening in college football, some of the forces at play, not all positive. Some could be, some might be. Some people think extra playoff games are great. Some people think super conferences are awesome. Some people love that. Not everybody does. Not everybody thinks the directions that we're headed are all good in college football. Some people think that we're moving to a place that only a few people can live inside college football, and that might not be great for the greater good of all of it. But college football is doing a lot of moving. Probably need to call Crocker Moving Services.
They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys. You can trust them in your home. They did your whole home packed up and move, your company headquarters, moved across country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room. These guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you purchase and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website's CrockerMovingServices.com. It's CrockerMovingServices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
Where is college football headed next? And it was a part of the conversation we had with Paul Feinbaum, Greg, the other day, in that where is the tipping point for college football, where he thinks that it could be coming in the next couple of years. A couple of tweets coming into the show. At Mac and Cube, you can be a part. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. 800-239-WJOX. You can text in 205-834-9450. Tweet in as well. Louis Jarman tweets in, can you have a tradition and not be a rivalry? Notre Dame, Navy as an example. I think so.
Why is that not a rivalry?
Because it's very one-sided.
Doesn't matter. Coppell was our biggest rival in high school. I think they won like one time in 50 years. It's still a rival. If you play every year, it's a rival.
Golf and Moose tweets in, as someone that has grown up in the state and went to the university, rivals are as ordered. 1A, Tennessee, 1B, Auburn, 100 feet of crap, 3 LSU. We don't need to really ask the question of who is Alabama's biggest rival, do we?
I mean, to me, it's Auburn. Depends a little bit on the quality of the actual team. When I was in school, it was LSU and Florida. Those are the two teams we hated the most behind Auburn. So, I mean, that's now changed. It's Georgia is in the mix. Tennessee is, of course, back in the mix. It just kind of depends on the quality of the opposition.
Jolly tweets in, listen, Lincoln Riley is soft. If Brian Kelly had done his freaking job and had LSU ready last September, we could just discount those clowns as glorified FCS school. I don't know if I go that far, but.
Yeah, they were only one win away from the college football playoff 2 years ago. It's not like our Lincoln Riley apologists. It's a reality.
JD tweets in, USC joins Big Ten knowing it has to travel, wants to end Notre Dame game because it has to travel. So we get USC Rutgers and lose a huge rivalry in USC Notre Dame. Sums up where we are as a sport. It's totally fair. Convenient excuses come at convenient times. I want to go to Don first, and then I'm going to read this last tweet that's on my mind that I think could give us a couple more talking points. Don, what's on your mind as it pertains to college football rivalries?
Good morning, guys. With the SEC possibly going to 9 teams, they're talking about, speaking of rivalries, they're talking about possibly getting rid of Auburn and Georgia. What do you guys think about that?
I don't want it. I wouldn't like it. I've always wondered why you can't find a way to make it work from a scheduling perspective, but I'm also not that smart. So,
if anything, the 9-game schedule would maintain rivalries.
Yeah, I think that would actually help it stay. But depending on how you wanted to operate things from a round robin divisional standpoint, whatever it would look like, I never want to see that game go away.
Well, they've explored the 8+1 model, which means you have your one rival. That for Auburn would be Alabama, and you would play the other 8 teams every other year. That's the way it's kind of the other 7 teams, the other 8 teams. Yeah, the other 8 teams every other year. So whether or not that's still how they're planning on formatting it or what, I think you could do something with 3 and then do 5-5. That could be something. You could do 2 and 6-6, whatever they end up deciding. I think there's ways of protecting it, but just depends on what format they decide to go with.
Yeah, I don't think that would be one that we would look at that would probably go away if that were the case. The tweet that comes in is from the Unhipster. And Greg, he tweets in, what is your tipping point metric in the next 5 years that will show when college football is truly in trouble?
I'm not concerned about the sport. I'm not. I think we're still in a remarkable position of strength. We're the second biggest sport in the country behind the NFL. And if you look at the people that attended college and that have some type of generational appreciation for college football, we're still as strong as anyone. So I'm not worried about that. My concern is, frankly, in the near term, are automatic qualifiers disrupting how we consume the sport and making the sport more regional, to where all I care about is what's going on in my conference and not care as much about what's going on in other places. Because right now, everybody affects everybody. The ACC championship game was widely consumed last year because had SMU won, Bama would have made the playoff. But with Clemson winning, Bama was then pushed out. That mattered. Now, all you have to focus on is, hey, I just got to get in the top 6 in my conference so I can play my way into the college football playoff. That's a little concerning.
I would agree with that.
You're shrinking the world.
If you're asking me what will be the markers of a potential tipping point of college football as far as being in trouble, I would probably say it's going to be something legal. I would say legalities would be a big portion of that. And I'm not going to be able to point to something exact that I see. Let's use this for example. Yesterday, Ross Dellinger had a story out that the power conferences have drafted a contract that would bind schools to new enforcement rules and require them to waive the right to sue over decisions. Described as an affiliation or membership agreement, apparently not finalized, but a draft of the contract's been distributed to a lot of school presidents, general counsel and athletic directors. Some have pushed back, some have looked at it being refined. Now, take that into consideration, Greg. All 70 plus power conference schools would have to sign to be agreed upon. And the NIL Go situation that people are supposed to have some kind of governance with that's going to be established would have to be real. But you also consider that there are multiple states right now whose laws would be going against this, Tennessee being one. And that's something to watch in the near future, because if you have state laws that allow more than what the conference allows, I mean, Tennessee and Vanderbilt would both be included there. How do you manage that? How do you operate that way? Because there will be lawsuits at that point. We've seen that with college football in general.
Yes.
And now whether this is players beginning to sue for unlimited eligibility, whether this is, players suing for the ability to transfer in season and play for 2 schools, like it's not going to stop. It's not going to go away. This House settlement, and I've tried to tell you guys for a long time about this, and I don't know why other people are not on board with this. This is not the end of it. There's no unpenetrable wall that Congress is going to create that's going to stop the BS. There's just not. There will be workarounds. There will be underbellies. There will be backdoors. There will be room to slither within this. And they'll find it. And they'll take advantage of it. And they'll sue for it. It's going to continue to happen. Lawyers want to make money. College sports are an easy target right now. And this settlement, which apparently has thousands of loopholes and cracks and creases and things that don't look like they're going to be able to be withheld, is not going to make that unstoppable. It just isn't. So if you're asking me what will be the tipping point to show me that college sports are in trouble, I would just say something along the lines of that has legal ramifications. That's what I would say. I don't know exactly what it'll be. But then back to Greg's point, you look at the health of the sport, popularity, eyeballs, ratings, interest. It's not going to go away. It's not like one day somebody's going to close the door on college football and say, you know what, guys, enough's enough. We've had it. This is it. There's too many billions of dollars at stake. So they're going to continue to prop it up, give it a cast, give it a boot, give it crutches, give it a scooter, give it a Band-Aid, give it stitches, and continue to push it down the path as long as they can. That doesn't mean that the true health of it is going to be okay. It's like they'll do surgery, but they're not going to go to rehab to get it right. Like,
yes.
They're not going to.
And the reality is, how many hardcores are genuinely going to turn on it?
Not me. I'll raise my hand.
Just let's be real. I mean, the NBA lost a lot of casuals. They lost a lot of casuals in the last 5 years. Tons. Why? Because they got political and a whole host of other reasons, and super teams and not having a ton of parity and, all that stuff. The NBA lost a lot of the fringe fan base. But you know what they didn't lose was their hardcores. College football has a tremendous amount of hardcores. And guess what? The fringe fan are coming in droves. That's what's different about where we're at, where NASCAR is or whatever. NASCAR alienated their base, which was deep south, in an effort to become more national. We are not losing our base at all. And if anything, we're actually increasing the amount of casuals that are watching our sport because people can actually comprehend the playoff now. Like, think about me sitting down with my 6-year-old son, having him play an entire baseball tournament with a handful of teams. And at the end, the coaches vote on who won the tournament. And the fans, the parents, vote on who won the tournament. Explain that to somebody that logically follows sports. You can't. You literally can't. Y'all, our sport was a disaster. I hate to break it to you. For those of you that are like, oh, I missed the old days. Yeah, I like the BCS era too. I thought the BCS made sense. But prior to 1998, no, it's because I think at the end of the day, you've probably only 2 teams that can win the championship in a given year anyways. And the rare off chance in which there's 3 or 4 teams that are undefeated that all have an equitable argument, some of those arguments came up short. So I think the first year that became somewhat consumable to the casual fan was the BCS. That was in 98. Prior to that, you're sitting there with split national championships. You're sitting there with teams lose their bowl game, but were awarded national championship games. Like, it didn't make sense. So everybody that's like, oh, we need to go back to 93 or to 86 or to 75. Y'all, that was a time in which the college football world was remarkably niche. Insanely niche. Like, was getting lapped by MLB, NBA, NHL probably in some cases, and the NFL. Now we have surpassed all of those because our postseasons actually make sense. And the way we crown a champion actually makes sense. So I think we're a sport that's actually on the move in the positive direction.
Some people would say, does it though? With the way they get into said playoff. Does it make sense?
Doesn't, but fair enough. How you get in, I think, does confuse many. But ultimately, the casuals are the ones that are watching the games because
you saw the polls like I did towards the end of last season that you and I were distributed of 4% of America knows who qualifies for the playoff.
Yeah. And 4% of America is like actively consuming it. Like, we're not alienating our base. If anything, the only thing that makes me worried about college football is there has been a do or die nature in the sport forever. And the do or die nature, because we play games once a week, I don't think it's ever going to go away. That's been my biggest concern, though, is, well, man, if I lose to LSU, it used to ruin my life. Like, you need to take my shoelaces from me, hide the cement shoes, and make sure I didn't go near any cliffs. Now it's like, you know what? Yeah, we lost to Tennessee, but we're still in the mix.
Is that just you and I because we work in it? Or is it the opposite I would like to hear from the general public on this. Does it begin to hurt more and mean more and be more painful the older you get? Because for us, I don't think it's applicable the same way because we have to talk about so much of it, be around so much of it, and we have to talk about our schools in different ways than a diehard fan does. Like, because we do see adults deal with this in different ways as time goes on? Or is it easier to deal with? Is it easier to sit back and say, well, it doesn't bother me as much? 800-239-9569. 800-239-WJOX.
The focus is still on the prize at the end of the season. But the focus is still, I still want to win a championship. And if you all of a sudden reveal a flaw in your football team, guess what? You don't get to play another game the next night. That's why the NBA and the NHL and the MLB, it's disposable. All right, well, hey, we lost 19-1 the other night. But guess what? We get to play again today. Oh, yeah, you know what? It was a bummer. We lost by 50 in the second round of the playoffs in game 2. But guess what? We still get to play the following day. In football, it's do or die. Still in the postseason, obviously. It's win or go home. But because you have 7 days to sulk and to simmer and or to voice your frustrations, it still feels do or die, even if the outcome of the game doesn't have an overall impact on what your team can accomplish down the road.
All right, let's go to Hastings on the Higginbotham hotline. Wants to chime in as to just how he views games, how games affect him as he's gotten older. Hastings, welcome into the show.
Yeah, hey guys. I think when you, especially in the BCS era, the AP and stuff like that, where it was, you lose a game, you're potentially out of it. You took it a lot harder. And honestly, I think it affected viewership because now I'm more compelled to watch stuff throughout the season because now you can take that loss to LSU. And so now it's like, all right, well, it'll be okay. We can come back and win this game, the next game, and continue. I mean, you're sitting there with an Alabama team with 3 losses at the end of the season, levying for a playoff spot. And so I think as someone, a casual fan, and I don't know if I would call myself a casual fan, I'm probably a little bit more dialed than some people are, I think it makes it better. I think that you don't lose interest midseason when your team has 2 or 3 losses and you have no chance, because there's always that chance. And everybody's saying they don't know how the playoff works. Look, I understand there's voting, but also the conference champions do get in. Now, granted, the seeding might be off, but you do have winners of these conferences getting in and making it more compelling from a national standpoint because you're branded throughout the United States. So as I've gotten older, the game has changed, which has affected how I look at losses now. So my losses, I don't take as much as I used to, take as hard as I used to, but also it makes it more compelling for your viewership throughout the year. So anyways, that's my take on it. I appreciate what you guys do. Thanks for taking my call.
What about you personally as far as how losses affect you? More now or more 10 years ago?
10 years ago. Oh my gosh. When I was in college.
You have a child now, though. You have a different perspective, Hastings. You're married
change
now.
For some people, though. I mean, it's
remind me, do you have a kid now, Hastings? I know you're recently married, but you don't have a child yet, do you?
Greg, I don't have a kid.
Yeah, but you're married. You have a different perspective. Well, I don't
know. Ultimately, that doesn't make the difference for a lot of people. We got a couple other people on hold. I want to continue the conversation. Thank you, Hastings. If losses affect you more or less now than they did in your younger years, and how do the different championship formats change your viewing during the season? 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. I see a couple of you on hold. We'll get to you next on Mac and Cube in the morning. We are discussing how much more losses mean to you now as they did in your younger years, more or less. I think there's a general assumption that people just deal with them better, and I disagree. I know a lot of folks, as they get older, the losses hurt more. I don't know if it's just you either were used to winning them all or didn't have to deal with losing them all in your younger years, or you don't feel like you have a ton left and you want to get as many wins in as you can. But there are not all folks that look at this as, well, I'm getting older, I have children, I'm married, I have a different perspective. It's just, everything's okay. And then also during the season, the new championship format, you watch more, you watch less. You're more interested, you're less interested. Which era forced you to pay more attention to college football just in general? Discussing all of those things on the Higginbotham Hotline, 800-239-9569. John in Hoover would like to discuss. Welcome in, John. How are you?
Doing great. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thanks. Appreciate the call.
But I just wanted to talk. Absolutely love you guys' show. But I just want to talk about. I really felt like the game was more effective and better with the BCS era. I mean, every week you had to watch. It was a playoff every week. I mean, being a huge Alabama fan, like go back to 2009. If Alabama doesn't beat Florida, they don't play in the national title game, and that takes away that national title away. That game there was just as big. That game to me was like the '92 game against Miami, beating that Florida team. That was like the modern day version of that. Week to week is a playoff to me when you have that error. You have to win every week, and I know some teams got left out because of it, but however many you extend it to, somebody's always going to get left out. That's just the bottom line of it. Like, I feel like now you can miss a week or two. If you have a wedding on Saturday, you can go because your team loses. You still have a chance to be in. It's kind of more like the NFL. You don't have to watch every Sunday. You can just keep up with it, which I don't. I love college football. Went to Alabama. Went there. I was in between the halfway of Shua and the start of Nick Saban. So, trust me, winning every game is important to me. Growing up and living through the Shua years, yeah, 5-6 and 5-7, 7 losses a year going in those games. I'd much rather see 12-0, 13-0, 14-0. To be honest with you, that's just how I've always grown up. You can go back to '92, the way that Alabama beat Florida in the SEC championship. We don't win that, takes away a national title by that whole year. Exciting, more memorable, in my opinion.
Well, it makes sense. Understandable. I appreciate the call, John. Carter in Birmingham wants to talk college football playoff and postseason. Welcome in, Carter.
Hey guys, I love the show.
Thank
Great
you.
discussion on a May Tuesday. Hey, yes, as far as the losses, they certainly mean less for the upper echelon, but the interest of the middle upper level has increased viewership. Like Ole Miss, Florida last year, nobody would have been watching.
That's
back
fair.
in the BCS era. We were all watching. Greg, I want to ask why you're so concerned about AQs, because I think what the Big Ten and SEC are trying to do is listen, because of conference realignment, the parity in the conferences just is not there anymore. And the reason they want AQs, which I think is healthy for the sport, is to say it's almost impossible to judge a team with 3 conference losses in the SEC versus a team with 1 in the Big 12 or the ACC. So they're just saying, hey, we'll play 9 games if you'll give us our top 4 in. And to say we want the best 16 teams, that's very difficult with the lack of parity in the conferences, because it's very difficult to judge who's better, SMU, Miami, Ole Miss, Alabama. Their records indicate one thing, but their schedules indicated another. And so I want to know from Greg what the AQs, why they concern him so much.
Because it feels, one, like a participation trophy. I believe in gold medals, not anything else. I think the priority should be focusing on conference championships, not who finished 6th in the conference. Like, to me, when you get down that far, now if we're giving automatic qualifiers at the top 2 teams, all right, you got my support. But now we're going all the way down to the point in which there's play-in games involving the 6th team. That's just uncomfortable for me. That's not how I grew up consuming the sport. That's not how I want to start beginning to consume the sport. And if that's where we go, that's what we'll do. But it's still uncomfortable. The other thing, who's to say that the second best team in the ACC deserves in? Because if the SEC and the Big Ten are guaranteed to get 4, they're also giving away 2 out of the 8 spots to the ACC and the Big 12. Well, what about in the event in which Oklahoma State is playing in the conference championship game in the Big 12 and they're they're 9-3, but have beaten absolutely nobody before getting steamrolled by Texas in the conference title. Like, do they belong in just because they just so happen to finish second in a weak league? No. Like, so my biggest problem isn't as much about the SEC and the Big Ten getting their AQs. It's about giving the ACC and the Big 12 theirs. And partly because I think it should be the top 16 teams. I don't feel like it's that hard to figure out, you know what, these are the top 16 teams. And you know what, so sorry, but you know what, you didn't do enough in the regular season to warrant inclusion. You don't just get in because you finished second. Congrats.
Right. You're giving more power to the voting committee then, though, of trying to judge 9-3 in one league versus 10-2 in another league. And you're getting more eye test. I mean, I think what they discovered after 1 year is that they wanted to think college football was more like the NFL, but it's actually more like high school, which has various conferences or regions, and you get in based on how you finish in your region because they are so there's so much inequality in the regions. Plus, in high school and in college, you control your non-conference schedule, and it doesn't affect your postseason play. The NFL makes your schedule, and so there's only 32 teams. They're all great. In college, you don't control your schedule, so you could have a team that goes 11-1 in one conference, played 4 nobodies, got the lucky end of the straw in their conference, and we're like, well, they're going to be viewed by a committee as one of the best teams, but they may not be one of the best teams. And so that's my concern. I actually think the move to make it a little bit more like high school was actually healthier because I actually think there are more similarities with college and high school than there are college and the NFL when it comes to scheduling and lack of parity.
Some good points. Appreciate the call, Carter. And it's interesting. And we had a couple of those last year. He made a great point about Ole Miss in Florida earlier that drew more people in. We warned people about Ole Miss before the season. We warned people about Missouri before the season. We sat there and said, look at these schedules now. 10-2 here is going to be very different than 10-2 over here, even though it's still the SEC. Just be careful with how you look at a couple of these teams with what their schedules are, because we're going to get to the end of the year and say 10 wins in the SEC, 11 wins in the SEC, and that's going to be really different than 9 wins over here or even 8 wins over there.
Yep.
Like we looked at Florida's schedule last year. We said it on this show. Should an 8-win Florida team be in over a 10-win Ole Miss team? And we didn't know the exact wins, losses, whatever. But like in general, you looked at it and said, probably. But it's a good point that if you start weighing that against Clemson or SMU or Boise, is probably most likely 98% of the time going to be Ole Miss or Florida at that point.
Yep.
Even though sometimes it might not exactly be that. So it's a great conversation. And I do think that, and we can sit here and say that the interest level towards the end of the season is greater because
more widespread.
Ole Miss had a chance to get in, or Ole Miss and Florida was intriguing, or I mean, how about South Carolina Ole Miss later in the year and the interest there? Miami Syracuse at the end of the season, the interest level that was there.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, there are a lot more factors contributing to that too. Like you're more aware of individual players now that are playing other places because they've played probably for your team or your team almost had a chance to get them more than once. You had a chance to get them in traditional recruiting so you learned their name. You had a chance to get them in the portal the first time so you knew their name again. You had a chance to get them in the portal the third time so you knew their name again. Well, now they're playing at Arizona, so if Arizona's on, you know that guy. Or if he's playing at Boise, you know him. Or Syracuse, you know him. And then, I remember when they talked about that team in May because they got this quarterback out of the portal. I remember when they talked about that team because they went from this conference to this conference, or that coach went from here to there. There are more ways on a daily basis throughout the calendar year that we talk about more teams. So I don't think it's just because, hey, in November, team A, B, C, D all had a chance to get in, so I'll watch their games. I think it's the whole calendar that's making you more interested in it. And I've said this for years now. Be careful because we're going to come to a day, maybe, when we shut a lot of this down and we stop a lot of this, and it's going to make the offseason a lot harder for Greg and I and Damian and John. But when that day comes, all this extra interest could go away.
Yes.
Because we don't have all the talking points. We don't have guys on their 5th school. We don't have guys on their 4th school. And so we don't have teams going to different leagues. We don't have leagues flirting with different teams. So we don't talk about it as much. And when all that levels out just a little bit, doesn't have to go away, but when that levels out some, and we don't have relevant college football conversations. Like, listen, we can create relevant college football conversations if we do. I got 4 lists written down today right here.
That's it?
From people. You want biggest upsets this season? According to Brad Crawford, I got it written down.
We would get back to the
CBS Sports Power Rankings that just came out, and apparently Clemson's jumped over 2 more teams. I got it written down. We can make them up.
We'd go back to the old school and just do Mount Rushmores.
Hey, you can't eat, man. You can't eat.
We can create them, but we have had relevant college football conversations in February, April, August, July, almost nonstop for 3-4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's pushing more people into it, I believe, on a daily, annual, monthly, weekly basis. And that doesn't mean you have to be dialed into Syracuse football. It doesn't mean you have to be dialed into Washington State football. But a lot of people now know that Washington State had this quarterback that apparently was really good that's coming to play against Oklahoma, who's playing against their team this year. They know that.
Yes.
So
the offseason has shrunk drastically.
Big time.
That's good.
I mean, a lot of people paid attention to Oregon State because they had the quarterback that was at Clemson that was supposed to be really good and then went to Florida State. So we watched Florida State to see if he was going to be good again.
We watched Florida State for a little more than that, but DJU did impact how consumable they were.
I think he maybe impacted how unconsumable they were. Well, we know Bromberg's is consumable, though, Greg.
Yeah, it's the place I go all the time. If I need a gift or if I need something to for a wedding that's coming up, if I need to go and purchase something for our family, it's just a great experience. I guess that's just kind of the only way I can describe it. It's just a great experience, and you'll understand what I'm talking about the second you walk through the door. They have beautiful, timeless pieces of jewelry that you can add to your collection, that you can give to loved ones, that you can potentially pop the question with. I mean, these natural diamonds that they have in their store are second to none. Just beautiful, timeless pieces, things that will stand the test of time and value. And if you're looking at investments, I mean, it's a great investment. Investing in gold, investing in jewelry, investing in diamonds. These are only going to get more valuable over time. So highly recommend you go into the place that I would trust, the only place I would trust in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit. It's Bromberg's.
All right, so we'll continue this conversation, maybe even take a dive into one of these lists that we have written down for today. Next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Average player.
Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We have had an interesting conversation today around scheduling in college football, what it looks like, where it's headed, also how it affects viewing habits. Does it make you like it more? Does it make you like it less? 800-239-9569. We gotten into a little bit of a discussion on the salary of Juan Soto during the break as it was flashed on screen here during one of our commercials. And was it 750 something he got over 14 years? 756 million?
765. We asked the question, and I think this is worth asking the question. I don't mind asking people. Do you think he goes over to Francisco Lindor and just says, I'm sorry, you're poor, dude. I know you're only making 32 this year, but I'm taking home 31. Taking home after taxes in New York, my dad. I think he just goes over and says, I'm sorry, you can't afford anything at 16 mil take home a year.
Just apologizes to him?
Just apologizes for just being so good.
And Lindor looks over and says, I have more home runs than you do this year and a better average than you. And,
to which he would say,
I've also driven in more runs than you have, so keep your money. I'm a better player.
To which he say, yeah, but you Poe.
It's wild. Then you get to Brandon Nemo.
God, don't
Mets
even.
roster.
I can't even listen to that. I can live with Lindor. I can live with Soto. I can live with that. Don't tell me.
Brandon Nemo makes $20 million this year.
Don't tell me.
Good.
I don't want
$20 million. Brandon Nemo is going to make this
It's
year.
incredible. I love it. I love everything about
You could
it.
be
How good is America?
You could be Brett Batty playing second base for the Mets.
Making 8.
Who, by the way, has 5 home runs, hitting 244. He's making $728,000.
Ouch.
Which, raise my hand would be great.
We did the math. Assuming that all Juan Soto did was buy T-bills on his $31 million that he takes home a year. Remember, he makes 62. Let's assume 50% of it's gone. Taking home 50 cents on the dollar in New York, probably with about 9.5% state income tax, agent fees, all this other stuff. Plus the 37% federal. So all that being said, he's taking home about 31 a year on the 62 that he's making. If he just bought T-bills at 4.5%, I know that's a bit slightly aggressive rate, but I would imagine if you're taking home 31 a year, you could probably get that. That means he is making 1.4 in interest off his salary this year. So what I would do if I were him, I would literally just take $1,000 and just give it to every single one of my teammates, like every day, and just say, yeah, it's for your, it should cover dinner for
your
you.
troubles.
For your, sorry.
Make it bother you. It's wild.
You could be Mark Vientos, who has played in 44 games this year, driven in 18, 5 home runs. By the way, Soto's got 8 home runs, driven in 20. Vientos hitting 235, Soto hitting 246. He's making $788.
Juan Soto is only 26 years old, making $765 million.
61.8 per year. He only got a $15 million signing bonus.
Only.
So his base salary, technically, Greg, is 46 this year because he already got 15 of it. It's good if you can get it.
Incredible.
It's good if you can get it.
I love it. I love America. God bless the USA.
Pretty insane to think about some of those salaries. All right. So we're going to go into one of these lists because I did want to talk about some potential upsets coming up this season in college football. We got Moose Johnson coming up at 9. Kyle Peterson's going to preview the SEC tournaments coming up at 9:30. So still a lot to get to around sports, but college football potential upsets. Brad Crawford has a list of top 25 teams he thinks are in danger of going down during this regular season. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first, Greg, tell our listeners about Shannara Flooring.
Well, Fu has built his company on a foundation of trust and integrity, and I love that he keeps so much of his inventory in stock. They have 40,000 square feet of Cortec flooring by Shaw in stock today, so you can go see it, touch it, feel it, walk on it if you want to before you install it in your home. And that gives me great peace of mind, knowing I'm making the right decision and I'm going with the best possible quality in that flooring that's going to bring value to my home or business. It's 100% waterproof, ideal for kitchens, laundry rooms, bathrooms, everywhere. You get 12 months financing with approved credit. So if you're thinking about making some changes to your floors, Call who? Call Foo. Call them at 205-518-6423 or go online at fooandyou.com.
All right, we'll talk some potential upsets this upcoming season in college football next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. App is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. Also, watch live on YouTube each and every day. Just search Jocks 945. Brad Crawford has his list of top 25 upsets that we're going to get to in just a moment. But also, don't forget that the podcast is up at jocksfm.com on the app. If you need to grab it, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get yours. And also, don't forget to tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champs. They've won 5 years in a row, and it's just amazing the deals that they continue to provide. That's why they've become the number one dealership in the entire country, according to General Motors. They sell more GMCs than anyone in the Southeast, and they've been number one in Alabama for a very long time. They also have that used car supercenter that you can go and find whatever vehicle you want for whatever price you can afford. They'll find an opportunity to get you in a vehicle that you will love and appreciate. The service is second to none, but the deals are what really make Bill Smith Buick GMC stand above all else. Like a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT 4x4 loaded with leather, $66,340 is a list price. You can take $14,000 off that sticker and get it for $52,340. Deals like that keep people come back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers. That's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take a short drive to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, a couple of upset potential from Brad Crawford at CBS Sports. The first game that he points to is on August the 30th in Atlanta, Greg. It is Syracuse and Tennessee. Apparently, I had some folks chiming at me last week about our conversations around SEC win totals. Tennessee fans a little bit upset that I thought that they would be under what their win total currently is. This is a dangerous game. And I think a lot of the reason this is a dangerous game is, one, what Syracuse did with a lot of unknowns last year and a lot more unknowns coming in this year. Now, when I say unknowns, proven commodities in college football, but unknown in a Syracuse uniform. They've done a really nice job replacing a lot of what they lost. And this is one, the team's going to come in, they're going to play hard, they're going to be well coached. And everybody has issues with guys gelling together in week one. So whoever is most on the same page, you would probably think going to be able to get this win in Atlanta.
I think that's a really tricky game, especially knowing that Tennessee has some challenges at corner. And with Jermod McCoy being potentially sidelined in the beginning of the season, I haven't heard much about his prognosis. I'm hopeful he'll be back in time, but doesn't seem likely. I mean, how quickly can you recover from an ACL? I don't know. I mean, I've seen some guys make miraculous recoveries and be back in 6 months. I've seen some guys take 9 to 12. It just
6
depends.
is pushing it still. We've come a long way, but 6 is still pushing it.
Big time.
So you've got Ricky Collins in at quarterback for Syracuse, Justice Ross Simmons back at wide receiver, Darryl Gill back at wide receiver. You brought in a couple other guys on defense, David Reese on the edge, Chris Thomas inside.
You're missing somebody. Your boy from Notre Dame.
Oh, quarterback. Yeah, Steve Angeli.
Yep.
He or Ricky Collins going to get the start. I think it'll probably be Angeli. But this is a talented football team. And here's the question that I have for the folks that push back on my Tennessee take, which is not really a take. It's just, if you're asking me over under, I'm going to take the under right now. Tell me why on Tennessee.
I don't feel good about it.
Sell me, anybody.
I was in Memphis last night, and I told a lot of people there that are Tennessee fans, I was like, look, man, I think this is going to be a bit of a reset year, but Josh had to do what he had to do. And I think in the long term, it's going to be better for them that they endure these challenges this season. But this is going to be a challenging season. Anything more than 8, you should feel great about this year. I mean, seriously. Like, tell me how many you feel confident in them getting, because I don't see a whole lot that I know for certain is a bona fide W, including that Syracuse game. Just because Syracuse in the ACC, they won 10 games last year. They're not just some run-of-the-mill squad. They're solid. And I think that they're going to have a bunch of things up their sleeve because of how much personnel turnover that you're going to be a tough team to kind of prepare for.
Now, I do think the defense can still be solid. Aaron Carter back at linebacker, Byron Easton inside, Jackson Moy inside. We saw Dominic Bailey do some good things last year. Joshua Josephs can give you some twitch off the edge, but nowhere near the depth that they had a season ago. Nowhere near. And I don't think anywhere near the top end guys that they had a season ago either that can be problematic. So you look at that on top of the offense, like maybe Mike Matthews does blow up, and he is that guy. Maybe Chris Brazzell goes back to being the guy that we saw before he got to Tennessee and makes more plays than last year. But do we think Joey Aguilar is just the guy that comes in and makes all those throws and makes everything happen, and he can be that dynamic in that offense?
Maybe. I mean, it could be great. I mean, the reality is you look at their schedule, they can still start 5-1. They have one of the most gettable schedules in the SEC this year, in my opinion. Now, you get Syracuse in the non-con. That's a big game. You get that one, you're in great shape. ETSU, get that one. Now you're 2-0. You got Georgia at home. Probably not going to happen. I have a hard time envisioning a win there. Can it happen? Sure. Georgia might have growing pains at that point too, but let's just assume they lose that one because we're playing devil's advocate at the moment. You got UAB at home. Love Terrence Dilfer, but I think that's going to be tough sledding. So you're 3-1 at Mississippi State. Mississippi State, how much progress have we made on defense? Probably not a ton. I think at that point, probably still in pretty good shape. You got Arkansas at your place. Now you're 5-1 if you get Arkansas at home. I feel pretty good about them being able to get Arkansas at home. Then you go to Bama. That'll be a tough one. I think that's an L. Now you got 2 losses. You're at Kentucky. Now, I'm not sold on Kentucky this year. Are you?
No.
Okay. Then you get Oklahoma at home. I think Oklahoma gets them, but it's at home. So do you think they lose multiple games in Neyland this year? Let's assume they do, because we're trying to find the worst case scenario for Tennessee fans this year. You lose to Oklahoma. You beat New Mexico State. You have 3 losses going to Gainesville. Which, guess what? I think it's probably going to be a loss. Tough game.
Yeah.
It's almost a loss at home last year with a better team. Florida's a year further along in their own program's development. So you're looking at 4, but that's worst case scenario. Now, it's also assuming wins at Mississippi State, against Arkansas at home, and winning at Kentucky. 2 wins on the road is no picnic, but I feel pretty good about the gap that exists between them and Mississippi State and Kentucky. So I think they're in pretty good shape to, worst case scenario, win 8, but I think winning 8 is also a very realistic possibility.
It is very possible. Damien, you're our resident Tennessee homer. What? Sell me on Tennessee this year. Why should I believe that Tennessee gets to 9-10 wins? Why should I believe Tennessee beats Syracuse week 1?
I can't really find one for you.
That's what I thought.
Can't really find one for you.
Hey, but the offensive linemen coming back all have more stars than the guys did last year. So there's going to be, it's good. The group's going to be better.
That's great.
That's what I'm told. That group will be better. I do like Wendell Moe that you got from Arizona. I think he's a good player and a bit of a tone setter, a guy that you need. But I don't know if that individually is going to be enough. I mean, Peyton Lewis did some nice things at running back. You know, Bishop had some nice carries. You're not going to be close to what you were at running back last year.
I think Bishop's pretty good. But can he be your alpha dog? Perhaps. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I feel about as confident in him as I do Damari Alston. I think Damari Alston's going to be good. Will he be as good as what you had last year? Probably not.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be pretty solid. Their run game's going to get numbers anyways.
That's just one of the upsets that Brad chose. There are a couple of more we'll get to, let you hear about those and kind of what they look like. But we want to talk UFL playoffs, what it's going to look like, the regular season. Still a couple of weeks to go. Daryl Johnston of the UFL going to be with us next to discuss it all right here on Jocks 94.5. Keep it locked on YouTube as well. Live, search Jocks 945 there, and you can watch every morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Tuesday, May 20th, 9 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. Glad you're with us. And going to start talking a little bit of UFL now. And we know that the playoffs have been set. Going to welcome in Daryl Johnson of the UFL, former Cowboy great. And a lot of people confused about the playoff situation and why Birmingham will be at home in the playoffs as opposed to Michigan hosting that home game. Can you add some clarity to those that are a little bit uncertain as to exactly how this played out the way that it did?
Well, the unfortunate thing for us this season is we had two of our venues that were going to be unavailable on conference championship weekend. And as luck would have it, we're staring at the potential for two of our number one seeds to have to play away from their home venues because their venues are unavailable. The biggest one, Ford Field, I think there's a load in for a concert that's going to be played a couple of days after our game, substantial load in for that show. And then there is a lot of soccer going on at Audi Field over the next really 15 to 18 months. And that's one of the things that bumped us out of Audi Field as well. So not just Birmingham, but also you talk about St. Louis having the opportunity to host those playoff games as number two seeds. Obviously, it's something that we worked extremely hard on trying to remedy that because it's one of the hardest things to try to explain to a coach and to have that conversation with Mike Nolan and Shannon Harris that, listen, you guys can go out and do everything that you're supposed to do and secure the number one seed, and we're going to have to travel to the number two seed. And it wasn't an easy conversation. I really appreciate the way that they responded and handled it and embraced the opportunity. And they'll find a way to use that as motivation for their team. But the disappointing thing for us as a league is we're going into week 9 with a Michigan-Birmingham game that is massive. And we really can't sell it in a way that this is for home field. This is a huge game. You got to be there. You got to tune in because unfortunately, whatever happens in that game, the conference championship will be played in Birmingham. And the exact same thing week 10 when we've got St. Louis at DC and we could be talking about the final week of the regular season with home field on the line. And that's not a narrative that we can dip into. So it's been very frustrating for us as a league. And as we entered into the season, you cross your fingers and hope the worst case scenario doesn't come true. We had the same thing with Ford Field last year, and it looked like we were trending in a similar way. And then Birmingham was able to establish some dominance there at the end and earn the number one seed and earn the right to host that playoff game. But we're still in limbo right now, and it's going to be very disappointing from us as a league, and definitely for Mike Nolan and the Michigan Panthers and Shannon Harris and the DC Defenders to earn the right to the number one seed and have to go on the road.
Yeah, it's got to be really frustrating. I mean, it is what it is. The good news is it's not like Birmingham doesn't have to get on a plane. You know, I mean, I guess exactly. that's the silver lining, I suppose, given the fact that everybody travels to and from Dallas every single week. How would you say this season's gone in general? It's been a fun watch. I've really enjoyed it. It's been pretty chaotic, and there's been some teams that have clearly risen to the top of the league. And have played well. St. Louis comes to mind as a team that's gotten hot of late. So how would you kind of assess this second year of the UFL?
I think it was like everything we've experienced this year. It was a little bit of a slow start, even on the football side. I think when we go back and we look at last season, you can see some similarities at the start of the year. And this is something that we're going to look long and hard at. Why are we getting off to these slow starts? Last year, it was weeks 1, 2, and 4. Where we were not really efficient offensively. Now, we all know that the defenses usually start the year a little bit ahead of the offenses, but we've been real sluggish the last 2 years offensively getting out to a start. This year, it was weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. But we hit our stride in both years in week 5, and we've continued to do that. We put up our most points per game last weekend. Our average drive start post kickoff is down about 5 or 6 yards. And I really think that that's had a big impact on some of these drives that are starting back, closer to the 30-yard line as opposed to out near the 36. When we went with the traditional kickoff, we were giving our our teams the opportunity to start drives in great field position. You get a couple of first downs and you're in field goal range. And we haven't had that this year. So I think that probably has done it a little bit. But I think the biggest thing when you look at our teams, in Birmingham is going to be the outlier here. It's when you look at the top 4 teams and the playoff teams established last weekend, it's the consistency at the quarterback spot. And Birmingham is the outlier with all the injuries they've had and all the number of different quarterbacks that have been a part of that team during the course of the year. Manny Wilkins goes out and Max Duggan came in. So great job by St. Louis having a different style quarterback there, but somebody who could step in and keep that team, headed down the right path. I think Michigan finally makes the big decision with Bryce Perkins and Danny Etling a couple of weeks ago, and you see the productivity there. And then, Jordan Ta'amu he's been, that one consistent guy for DC. You look at DC and Arlington, and they're the 2 teams that really have that quarterback position kind of locked up. And it's Jordan's or it was Luis's opportunity to lose. So I think that was one of the big things that's come out this year, was we had some inconsistency. And when you do the flip side and you look at the teams that have struggled, it's San Antonio trying to figure it out. It's Houston trying to figure that quarterback spot out. It's Memphis trying to figure out that quarterback spot. All the teams that are down there that have struggled, besides Arlington, have really, really not been able to find that consistency at quarterback. And I think one of the other things this year that's been great, and we saw this a little bit in the NFL, is kind of leaning on the run game a little bit. It's been nice to see the run game become important again in the game of football, whether it's in the UFL, in our league, or up at the NFL, with what we saw last season.
Daryl the Moose Johnson joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, talking some UFL. Does it bring up any different conversations when you see guys like Talatoa at Michigan, working at a golf course coming up, and then all of a sudden just being a hammer for that group at running back, or Jamar Smith working at Dunkin' Donuts while still working out, but he comes in and helps, whether it be extra roster spot or 2 moving ahead in the next few years, or going back to something like the XFL did with, I believe it was Team 9, where they had an extra team that just practiced all the time and those guys were there ready to go, ready to help. Has that generated any sort of conversation from player availability and maybe some changes that could be ahead?
Yeah, I was a part of XFL 2020, and we had Team 9, and what we saw was teams. Unfortunately, you know how it is. Everybody has their network, everybody has their connections. In those situations, our coaches move to where they feel comfortable, and we see that time and time again. And that's one of the things we challenge them with: is you got to step outside your comfort zone in some of these situations. If there's a better player out there who's younger and you don't know, you should really have a long, hard conversation that should be the player you should be bringing in, not somebody that's going to make you feel comfortable, that might be a little bit older, that might be carrying some injuries. And that's one of the areas we're trying to get our guys, out of their comfort zone. When you talk about a situation like a Jamar Smith, that's storybook stuff. That was so fun to watch, and having a relationship with Jamar, I couldn't have been more happy for him. And the fact that his son was there and had an opportunity to see it. It was in Birmingham. That's like a script that Hollywood can't even write. You wouldn't believe something like that was going to happen. Toatala, I think that is, that's just, one of those things. And he goes back and forth every year at Michigan, and it's a hard move for Steve Kaiser to make every year. And you're always chasing that speed and that explosive capability in the run game. And that's probably not Toa's strength. But like you said, man, he is just a hammer, and he moves the pile. And what has become really, really important in our league is converting a 2-point PAT. And we saw that last week in the St. Louis Birmingham game with Jacob Sailors, how important that was in that game. And I was at the Michigan Arlington game where they score the late touchdown. It's Toa that scores a late touchdown, and they basically go back to a very, very similar play for the 2-point try to win the game. And, so I think that, that power component is very important. We all want that speed and the ability to go, the distance on one play. But I think sometimes when you look at a guy, how does he fit what we do? How does the offensive line embrace him? There's so many intangibles that come with certain players, and I think Toa is one of those guys that just is very, very unique, his body type, his style of running, but he's a perfect fit for what Michigan does.
Yeah, it's kind of wild how guys can just roll in and not skip a beat and be ready to rock and roll. You've done, I feel like in the last couple of years, we've seen more of an emphasis on Friday games and how the games are being consumed. I feel like the Friday is a big opportunity and one that you guys have been leaning into. Have you been pleased with the reception that you've gotten on Friday night?
I would say it's probably a little bit mixed. It's a brand that Fox had established with their college football and their college basketball. So I think we're still seeing the adjustment to professional spring football being played at the spot we're playing on our calendar. The Friday night ratings have not been where we thought they were going to be. It appears right now that our big window seems to be, that afternoon game on Saturday. ABC has been a big driver this year with some of our better ratings. That's something that we'll look into, but we understand, the challenges of the spring calendar, but I love Russ Brandon's approach, and don't get caught up in that conversation, because that's really just providing excuses. Everybody in the spring landscape in sports is fighting against the same thing: the NCAA tournament, the Masters, the PGA. You've got big holidays, Mother's Day, Easter. There's a lot of things going on in the spring, and you just kind of grind and get through it. But yeah, we were excited to do the Friday night. I think it's something that's new, and we got to continue to lean into that, like you said, and continue to help support that and get it branded. And I thought last week with the Pizza Hut Party weekend, the way that they took up the sponsorship on Friday night and kind of kicked off that whole weekend, they have been a tremendous sponsor for us this year. And they've been really kind of outside the box thinkers on not only how to promote their product, but help us really build the league. They've been a really, really good partner for us. And I think that was demonstrated last week, with them kicking off Friday Night Football on Fox with the Pizza Hut Party weekend, and then having that be a big component all the way through the Saturday, Sunday games as well.
Daryl the Moose Johnson joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline talking UFL. With the playoffs set, give us kind of your thoughts on what you're most looking forward to here the last 2 weeks of the regular season, be it just in general, be it a matchup this weekend, just kind of one that you're looking forward to as far as what it might look like, what it might be. Obviously, we got a little bit of a playoff preview coming up this weekend, Saturday at 2 on ABC. But either way, what are a couple of things that you're kind of interested to see how they play out here over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's going to be great. You get a preview this week in the USFL conference, and then in week 10, you get a preview in the XFL conference. So we're going to get a good feel on what these matchups are going to be like. And again, let's go back to the NFL. Philadelphia dominated Kansas City in the Super Bowl, and that was really done down in the trenches. Right, Cole? It's offensive, defensive line, who wins the line of scrimmage. I think you look at the 4 teams that are here, and probably consistently the 4 best teams, all the way through the season on the offensive and defensive lines. Getting ready to do some of our awards here at the end of the year, and seeing some of the names that are coming in. There's a lot of defensive line on St. Louis. There's a lot of defensive line on DC. There's a lot of defensive line on Birmingham. There's a lot of offensive line on Michigan. This is going to be a game that's going to be won along the line of scrimmage. And that's not to take away from, what we've got on the outside, what we have in the run game, because I think we do have a lot of dynamic players. But I think the biggest thing is we get to see what's going to happen this weekend. My fear is everything's been set. And so are we going to start to see teams want to go into the playoffs as healthy as they can be? And we don't have that, hey, we have to win this game to secure the number 1 seed and to get home field. That's one of the more disappointing things in that whole conversation about venue availability, as we could have had 2 incredible regular season games that now maybe are from a strategic standpoint and wanting to be as healthy as you possibly can be going into the playoffs, maybe not your marquee players on that field. So, that being said, I really feel that this is going to be an opportunity to really see our 4 best teams. I think those 4 teams separated themselves. I would have loved to see some turnover in our playoffs. We did get 1 new team with DC replacing San Antonio from last year. But what we want to do is kind of what the NFL has, right? We like to see, other teams have that opportunity to get into our playoffs. And I think Houston was trending that way. And then we're unable to finish the game in Birmingham with a 25-6 lead. And that to me is one of the biggest things that Birmingham has going into the playoffs. Not only have they won 3 in a row, and they have dominated spring football for the last 3 years, but that Houston game, shows you that they never blink. They're never worried. They've always had that confidence, and this goes back to establishing it in year one. They've always been able to have a little bit of that swagger where no matter what's going on during the course of the game, they have the belief that they can get back into it and win it. And I don't know if the other 3 teams have that feel. So it's going to be interesting to see how important that is for Birmingham and what Skip has built over the course of the last 3 years.
Moose, we appreciate the time today. Always great catching up with you. Always good getting some insight into the league that a lot of us here in Birmingham love so much. We look forward to catching up soon.
Absolutely. Let's not let it be so long next time. Let's try to get. We'll do a playoff preview. We'll get a little bit of information from this Saturday's game, and we'll be able to dissect it a little bit more.
There you go. We'll do it again next week. Thanks, Moose.
All right. Awesome. Take care.
Daryl Johnson joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. You got Battlehawks Brahmas Friday night, 7 p.m. on Fox. I am interested, Greg, in what some of these coaches are going to do with certain positions via quarterbacks, like St. Louis, Hakeem Butler. He's sort of been in and out of the lineup, didn't go a couple of games. Do you play him? Do you want to keep him ready? Do you sit him a little bit? You're already on your number 2 quarterback, but Max Duggan needs reps because he's been a little bit inconsistent. Now he's growing. He's getting there. How long does he go against San Antonio? San Antonio's out. Same thing. I mean, we had Panther Stallions in week 10 and then the first round of the playoffs last year. Now you'll get it week 9, first round of the playoffs. How, especially with quarterback in that deal, like Jamar needs reps, but you don't want to go to number 6.
Yeah.
Panthers obviously have probably the hottest quarterback in the league right now. You going to play him? How long? Because the rosters don't really allow for a lot of extra guys to be added, and you can't just sit a bunch of guys if you want to. So I do think it's going to be interesting to see sort of how all that plays out. Jordan Teamu in DC, another example of that. I mean, he's been in that offense for a couple of years now. He doesn't need more reps. But how much do you want to rest him?
2 weeks off is a long time, though.
It's a lot, yeah.
I mean, I can understand week 10, get him a series or 2 and then get him out, especially if there's nothing really on the line. You can't secure home field, what have you. But 2 weeks, if you have a hot quarterback, for example, like Bryce Perkins at Michigan, probably don't want to sit him for 2 weeks. You want to maintain that level of confidence and maintain the level of play that he's been on.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll continue that conversation a little bit later in the week. We got Kyle Peterson coming up at 9:30 to preview the SEC tournament. We'll begin to get into that just a little bit next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys being with us. 9:21, Tuesday, May 20th, right here on Jocks 94.5. I want to go back to some of these potential upset games from Brad Crawford that we had in our previous hour. Syracuse, Tennessee was one. We all agree Syracuse, good chance of pulling that one.
I think they definitely could. I think it's a coin flip game. Tough game for sure.
Okay. So that would be one.
I hope people are paying attention to what Syracuse is. I mean, I understand that if you just look at the league, you look at the school, it's fine, but understand the element of the unknown, how many new players they have, and the fact that they won 10 games last year should have your radar up and your antenna up when it comes to that game.
I've had these clips. John's had these for me for about a week now. And since you brought that up, let's listen to this. This is Syracuse head coach Fran Brown at ACC meetings. He was on SiriusXM with Roddy Jones, and he was asked about Trevor Pena's departure from his roster.
That situation alone was hard because I love Trevor.
Yeah.
And I know Trevor loves me.
Yeah.
Right. And I know Trevor had a lot of things going on, right? Trevor has bust his butt to put himself in a position to be an NFL football player. Mm-hmm. You know, he's had 4 years before I got there that were, he couldn't stay healthy. He couldn't do right. Like things wasn't going right for him, right? So I know how hard he worked last year and put himself in position to have the monster year that he had, right? And he just like, I want to repeat it. You know, I mean, of course, there's money involved and all too, but like, he wanted to repeat that year again, and he wasn't confident enough that he just didn't have that feeling inside. Like, he didn't have that feeling that he could repeat it. So he did what was best for him, and it was just like certain things. When I heard, it was just like, you know what? I got to do what's best for the S, because nothing's bigger than the S, right? And it was tough, but like we texted the other day, and I'm not violating because he's not going back in the portal. It was just a text, and I was just telling him I'm there for you, because I know he's still got to get rid of his apartment, and there's things still has to do on campus. I don't want him to have a bill back here that he has to pay. Like, look, I'll help you do all those things. Let me talk to the people so that way we can take care of that. And I love you. And he was like, yo, I love you too, coach. Yo, it's all love. And I said, of course, that was just business, bro.
Right.
Like, I'm here for you forever, right?
You hear that, Greg, and it's not what we expect from a lot of coaches.
Right.
We don't anticipate to hear things like that behind the scenes, and we forget these guys leave one school, go to another. I mean, I can remember how annoying it was going from one apartment to the next at the end of the semester into the school year in Auburn, Alabama. Having to move, having to change your cable, having to change the water, all those different things like that. That was a lot. Can you imagine going from Syracuse, New York to College Station, Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Or Starkville, Mississippi? Or, I mean, yeah, you're going to have, I mean, he's saying, the kid had a lease that he's got to handle and take care of, wants to try to get somebody else living in there so he doesn't have to pay it. He's going to have bills he's going to have to pay. Maybe he's got a parking ticket that's not paid yet, wants to get that taken care of before so he can actually get his credits to roll over. Whatever it is, there's just a lot of extra stuff. And hearing Fran Brown reference things that way, it just gives you a different perspective on who he is, not only as a coach, but as a person.
I think he's a real one when it comes to being able to communicate with the players, have the players back, all that other stuff. I think that's a very real and authentic way of approaching the modern coach. And it's weird. It's interesting. It's difficult sometimes to digest, but it also makes sense. I mean, I think that's why players flock to play for him from a lot of different places. So I think it's cool.
You hear him say, hey, you left to go somewhere else. That was business. Like, how many of us cannot separate that? Like, we can't separate a business move from a personal move to, an emotional decision from a business decision. It's very difficult for Fran Brown to sit there and say, hey, you did what you had to do for you. But we are still, well, we've always been. It's all good. We'll be that moving forward. He was asked later about Murad Watson's departure from his roster.
Murad Watson left, right? He was a good player for us. And his was financial based, right? It was things that we couldn't do. Like, hey, listen, I'm not doing that. You're a good player, but not that much.
Right.
I need more stats for that, right? When you want this amount of money, no, I need this. They got more than we got, right? It's Texas, so it is what it is, right? So it's like, all right, cool, pay that, but I'm gonna just go get this other guy who I think gonna do just as well. And it was nothing towards him. I love Murad. Like, we got a chance to develop. I'm happy that he was able to come here to get his career kick-started, to give him an opportunity to go out to make that amount of money to be able to help him and his family right now.
Right. And
you never want to be in the way of that. So the fact that that Murad was able to do that, that's a blessing.
I mean, number one you love is honesty. Hey, it's Texas. They got more. So we can't compete with that. It's just real.
Right.
And then number two, that's a big check, man. I'm going to need more stats than that. Murad Watson, freshman defensive lineman, had 31 tackles last year. And, had 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack. And I love the fact that Fran Brown's like, yeah, we would love to give you that, but not for what you've done for us. And we think you can be a good player. And if they want to overpay you, great. Let them overpay you. I got to take care of some other stuff. It's a transparency, I think, is just really cool. And then I think his overall view of what his roster is, what college football is, where it's going, what it's going to be, how he handles it is it's magnificent to hear that there are some guys out there like this.
Well, and I think that's the way you have to go about it nowadays. Like, if you can't make emotional decisions, like, I want to keep this guy. I want to keep this guy. Yeah, but you just can't. I mean, it doesn't make sense. If the guy's production doesn't warrant the value in which other teams are willing to pay, then by all means, go ahead. And I think that there's plenty of good players out there. Plenty. There's plenty of players out there that can get you 1.5 sacks. I can promise you that. Now, I don't know what Texas is paying or what Oregon's paying or some of these big money teams, but I would be willing to bet that it's not really about the production. It's about the depth. That guy will be a role player.
Yes.
Would you rather be a fixture or a role player? That's the question you have to ask the guys. And me, I'd rather be a fixture. But some guys would rather take the bird in the hand because they probably think they're going to be a fixture at the new destination when, in fact, they're probably not a huge part of their upcoming plans.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. We would almost all choose the prior to that. All right, let's move to the SEC baseball tournament. When we come back, we will begin to preview what starts in about 2 minutes with Kyle Peterson, next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. SEC baseball tournament underway shortly. And to break it down for us, Kyle Peterson, one of the best analysts in all of television, joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. I love getting this question out to you almost annually, Kyle, and that is, how many teams do you believe can win this year's SEC baseball tournament?
Oh, wow, can win it. I think format changes it some this year, the whole single. So because I think you got to burn through too many arms. So I'd say 8. I think anybody that doesn't play today can win it.
So the single elimination's a new format, and I think we're all excited about it. Think it's going to be fascinating to see how it all works out. But you think the double bye, how big is the double bye when taking into account the fact that 4 teams will now start playing on Thursday as opposed to teeing it up today at 9:30?
Well, the crazy thing, Greg, is, 2 play Thursday, 2 play Friday.
Yeah.
So, you got 2 teams that, I guess all 4, they can set their rotations the way that they have the entire year. And I like that. But I think that's the advantage you should get from finishing top 4 in the league, to where, you can play it the same way as you have the whole season. I don't know if it matters if you play Thursday. If you play Thursday, you're off Friday. So if you win, I guess if you lose, you're too. But so I think that advantage is a big deal. And it's also a big deal when you push through to the postseason, because I think those that are the 5 through 8 that play tomorrow, they'll still set the rotation the way they want for the postseason. But if you're 1 through 4 and you're playing Thursday or Friday, you're figuring out who you want to pitch day 1, day 2, day 3 in regionals, and that's the way you're setting it up. So I like it. The only thing I'm worried about with single elimination is fan base, is to see if it affects the environment. But I think from like a pure team standpoint, rewards you for what you did during the season. I think it makes a ton of sense.
Peel back the curtain a little bit for us, and Kyle Peterson joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. We'll be calling SEC baseball tournament games from a coaching perspective: lineup, roster, innings pitched, pitch counts, amount of arms thrown. Does single elimination change a lot of that for a lot of these coaches?
Well, I think it depends on who it is. It's, you're playing for, I guess 3 different things. Today there's some playing to make sure they get in the tournament, and some that South Carolina, Missouri in particular, and probably A&M, that if you don't win today, and for Missouri and South Carolina, you got to win the whole thing. But if you don't win today, your season's over. And then it starts changing. Then it goes to, okay, who's going to host and who's going to be a top 8, which means that you can play at home for 2 weeks. So I think to your pitching question, it kind of depends on who you are. If you're Texas, Vandy, Arkansas, LSU, the 4 that have the double bye, you're going to be a top 8. If you get beat, it doesn't matter. For the other ones, it may be a little bit iffy. And so you may approach it differently as far as what you do back end of the bullpen day 1. And they all may do the same thing. I don't know. But I just think there's different things. There's very different things to play for in this tournament, depending on who you are. And there is every year. It just becomes a little bit more apparent this year when it's single elimination. And, if you're Tennessee, you win 2 games, you're probably going to host. You get beat tomorrow, you're probably not. If you're Auburn, you're one of the last few to be a top 8, you're going to host for sure. But winning tomorrow makes a big deal. Georgia, same way. Ole Miss, you go on a heater, you may host. So I think everybody's probably going to look at it differently based on what you're playing for.
Who would you say has the most to gain this weekend with a decent charge?
A&M. If A&M beat Tennessee on the road, they beat swept Vanderbilt on the road. I think that's right. And they beat LSU at home. So you're talking about 2 of the top 8, and a Tennessee team that potentially is going to host. They beat them all. And then they got swept by Missouri, and those are the only 3 games in Missouri won the whole year in the conference. It's one of the most confounding things I've ever seen in my life in sports, honestly. Like, it makes no sense. And it wasn't like it was 3 one-run games. They got buried. If you win 2, you go into this weekend thinking totally differently. Like, A&M could go to the College World Series if they get in the tournament. But they probably got to win 3 games to be considered, I would say. I mean, you definitely got to win 2, but you may have to win 3. I mean, there's others for different reasons that have things to play for, but like South Carolina, Missouri, you got to win the whole thing. There's no other route to get there. A&M is different. I don't think you have to win the whole thing, but I think you probably have to win 3. And if you win 3 and your name shows up in somebody's regional, they're not excited that you're coming.
Kyle Peterson joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Best group of arms. Is it easily Texas in this tournament?
No, I don't. I actually don't think it's Texas. I'd say Vandy, Arkansas, probably throw LSU in that mix. I'd say those 3. I think Texas. I mean, what Texas has done is pretty incredible. I mean, they lost their 3-hole hitter as Big 12 Player of the Year for half the year. Their ace is gone. They're not going to get him back. Their arms are good, but they're not wow good when you watch them just from a pure stuff standpoint. They just pitch the daylights out of it based on what they have. So, no, I think Texas, the numbers will say that Texas can pitch with anybody. The scouts will tell you Vandy, Arkansas, LSU are probably the 3 that they're going to show up and see as much as anybody. I mean, Tennessee with Liam Doyle, he could be the first college pitcher off the board. But those other 3 are pretty deep.
Looking at kind of the bottom half, you already referenced A&M. You talked about the hilariousness that is Missouri with what they accomplished and having just won 3 games. 3-27 is kind of wild. And it's kind of amazing that we're now looking at a 16-team league, and man, to be just above 500 is a pretty remarkable achievement. Will this continue? Do you think it's going to continue to maintain this level of play, or do you think there are some teams that could separate in the years to come because of the coach and the resources that they have access to?
No, I think it's going to be the same, Greg, and I think the biggest reason is because they all have a lot of resources. And they all have really good coaches. I mean, there's Hall of Fame coaches all over the place. So you combine that with resources, environments kids want to come play, some of the best facilities in the country. I don't think you're going to see a situation where somebody goes on a 5-year run and is just markedly better than everyone else. I just think the halves are too close together. Concerns me a little bit at the back end, but I think that's probably that way with any league. I mean, Missouri, Missouri's tough. I mean, it's tough from a weather standpoint to start. Nobody else has to deal with it. Facilities are different than everybody else. And I think, the question if I'm an AD is, do you really make the commitment and how much does it matter? And I think that's probably what they're dealing with right now. I mean, it was, take one weekend away, they went 0-27. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. But I think for the rest of them, I mean, look at Alabama. Alabama's the 9th seed in this tournament. If they win 2 games, they're going to play at home. They're the 9th seed in the conference tournament. If they win today and they win tomorrow, they're probably going to host. That's a pretty decent league. And I do think I think historically it's been pretty spread out. And I think given the 2 that you added and the resources that come with it, that I don't see that changing.
Kyle, we appreciate the time. Before we let you run, one player that SEC baseball fans in this state might not be aware of that would be worth the price of admission to watch in this tournament for you.
Late game tonight. Watch Ace Reese. Has had a big-time offensive year from Mississippi State. He's transferred from Houston. If he goes in the portal, well, if he goes or not, he's going to make a ton of money. But has really come on in conference. and that's the final game of the day, them at A&M. So Ace Reese is probably somebody that not everybody has watched quite yet, but it's worth the price, man. I think he's going to play for a long time, and you compare his numbers with about anybody else offensively in the league, and he's right there.
There you go. KP, thanks for the time, man. We greatly appreciate it. We love hearing you call games and join us. I look forward to catching up soon.
All right, fellas. Have a good morning.
There you go. Kyle Peterson joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Game one underway. We are in the bottom of the first with no runs, one out, currently no score as well. Missouri, Alabama.
Oh, boy. Nail biter.
Like he said, Missouri 16-38 on the season.
It's insane.
3-27 in conference play, and directly behind home plate, an LSU fan with the upside down hat.
Rally cap?
The upside down letter hat that you love so much.
Yeah.
Right there, first shot that shows up on TV.
You love that hat.
I love bringing it up because you love it so much.
I love how people love to disrespect their own team.
All right, we'll keep you updated on that one. Let you know how it's playing out. It's there is some weather coming in tonight upon further review. We'll see how that affects the tournament, see how it affects things around Hoover. Spring weather in Alabama is unpredictable. That's why you need the reliability of a Trane, voted America's most trusted HVAC brand right now. Can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor on select Trane home comfort systems. Find more at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a Trane. We'll go back to a couple more of these potential upset games next. Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 2 outs now, bottom first. Alabama does have runners on first and second.
Oh, we back.
It's a 1-2 count, so we'll see how that plays out for the Crimson Tide.
Hitters count.
Well, strike 3, inning over.
Bad call.
Y'all back in the field is where you are.
Probably bad call.
I don't think Chris Stewart would even argue with that one.
Right down the middle?
It's a smidge low, but it was a good pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, got him. The next in line for Brad Crawford's top 25 teams that could be seeing upsets this year, Illinois. By the way, do you know what the line is on the Syracuse-Tennessee game?
Pick 'em?
No. Tennessee's favored by 12.5.
I'll take Cuse.
You think?
Plus the points.
I couldn't believe that when I saw it. I was, wow.
That's a lot.
Next will be on September the 6th, Illinois at Duke. Another game that nobody's talking about, but could be a very interesting matchup in week 3 of this college football season. I think that's one that could be a lot of fun.
Could be. Here's the problem with Duke. They went 6-1 in one-score games last year.
But you got a new quarterback in.
But 6-1 in one-score games. And in all likelihood, a slight to moderate regression. But you look at their schedule, and it's not unthinkable that they could be pretty good again. Now, I don't think they're going to win 9. But I think if you look at their schedule, Duke's schedule, they have 4 wins that are, I don't want to say guarantees, but should feel pretty good about it. Elon, UConn, Wake Forest, and Virginia. Then they have a handful of toss-ups, including that Illinois game. So I think it's a dangerous one. At Tulane is also dangerous for Duke, but I'm not convinced. I think a bowl would be a solid second season for Manny Diaz.
You get Darian Mensah in, quarterback from Tulane. You also beat Clemson last year. 9 wins last year. It was a good year. Greg and I both think Illinois has a chance to be pretty good this year. Next would be Arizona State at Mississippi State on September the 6th.
Tough game.
Cam Scatterbu gone. Tough environment to play in. Different heat can affect players different ways at that point in the year. I also think Mississippi State's a team that is going to be very different when they're healthy because they're not going to have the depth, and some of their frontline players could be pretty good. So that's not the time you want to catch Mississippi State. So I would agree with Brad here. I think it's a super dangerous game for Arizona State.
I would agree. I think Arizona State's going to be really good, should be solid, but they do have some pieces that need to be replaced. Now, everyone loves their quarterback. Everyone loves the receiver, Jordan Tyson. But there are some guys on both lines of scrimmage that are gone that had a veteran group last year up front along the offensive line. A lot of pieces needing to be replaced there. So it's going to look a little different, but Mississippi State, as crazy as this may sound, will probably be among the more talented teams they face this year.
I can't wait to get your thoughts on the next one. You're going to have to wait for that one, but one thing you never have to wait for is your dental care.
That's because Family Care Dental has you taken care of. The urgent care officer can be seen the same day in several locations to make it easy on you in Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, Alabaster, and Trustful. They can get you in today. Their routine cleanings now come with free teeth whitening, and they can always see you for emergency care as well. Patients of all ages are accepted, and most insurance plans are accepted. So call them today at Family Care Dental, 874-9605. That's Family Care Dental, 874-9605.
Next, Brad Crawford in his list of top 25 teams that are on upset alert this year. September 27th, Notre Dame at
Arkansas.
Correct.
Or Kansas.
Do you see it?
Yes. But I could also see Arkansas losing at Memphis the week before. Seriously, like they're a Jekyll and Hyde team that's going to have some great moments and have some moments that are like, what the heck just happened? So, yes, I think Arkansas could definitely pull that game. But you also have to take into account A&M is lurking there as well. I believe that's 2 weeks earlier. So Notre Dame will have been battle tested at that point. Arkansas will have 2, but Arkansas is a scary place to play, especially as a big favorite. As a big favorite that went in there at one point and played, it was a grind. And that was a really good Arkansas team that ended up playing in the Sugar Bowl, but it's a grind to have to play there. And Notre Dame, if they don't play well, we'll find out why.
Notre Dame goes at Miami, Texas A&M, Purdue, at Arkansas, then Boise the next week. So a tricky first month of the season for Notre Dame. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Next in line would be, this one's tough for me to get on board with, Ohio State at Washington.
Yeah, probably not going to get on board there.
I know Ohio State loses a lot. I'm going to move on from that one. October the 11th, he has Georgia at Auburn. Can you see it?
Yes.
Does a lot of that have to do with the schedule? I think that's a big portion of it here. When you think about the sandwich that Georgia's going to kind of be facing there with Alabama, then Kentucky, you go to Auburn, and then you're going to have Ole Miss at home the next week. So that could be a little bit tricky. I don't think that those are teams that Georgia necessarily is used to looking ahead to or looking back at or not being able to bounce back from. And then from an Auburn perspective, you're at A&M after you're at Oklahoma, but you get a week off before Georgia, and you get Missouri at home the next week. So both teams will be tested. Both teams should know what they are by then. And I think a lot of this will come down to, like we've talked about, that Auburn offensive line and quarterback having an understanding of when to get the football out and where to get the football to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tricky spot for sure. And obviously it does require some equity and some rep equity that might not be had at that point of the season.
Tell you guys about Gusty Goulas and Gusty Goulas Group. If you have equity in your home and you're looking to get rid of it, well, he wants to tell you how much it's worth. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com right now, and they'll let you know how much your home is valued at for them and what they think they can get for it. There's a button at the top of the page for that. Call 205-542-1996 to talk with a representative from the Gusty Goulas Group. Over 850 five-star Google reviews, serve more than 3,000 home buyers sellers in the greater Birmingham area since 2012, recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in home sold. The Gusty Goulas Group, just Google Gusty Goulas Group or go to GustyGoulasGroup.com today and start packing. Finally, Brad Crawford has LSU at Vanderbilt on October the 18th. Can you see it? I'll be honest with you. I could see Vanderbilt getting every team on their schedule. They're not going to, but you're going to have a difficult time telling me that there's a game on the schedule that they just flat can't get.
Well, here's the problem with Vanderbilt this year. The more I think about it, the more I've talked to people that have made Vanderbilt's the preparation for Vanderbilt a priority. So last year, they kind of were able to go into the season without a lot of people focusing in the preseason on their study. Now, I think an entire year in the league and having caught a couple people off guard, they're going to be more circled from a defensive coordinator's perspective. And I'm sure a lot of time has been spent by the staffs at Auburn, the staffs at
Similar when you have a
Alabama.
triple option team on your schedules.
No different.
You work that in the offseason.
Correct.
Kirby used to always say when Paul Johnson was at Georgia Tech, we spend 3 full days in spring practice on the triple option, and we spend 2 periods a day on Tuesdays, Wednesdays during the regular season, the entire season on triple option.
Correct.
Because you can't just go in game week and say, all right, guys, let's get ready to play this.
Here we go.
I mean, we had a whole bowl preparation on it when we played Army. And we had Ryan Hooker, who ran the triple option in high school, and our defense still wasn't ready for it. A whole month to get ready. Like, you just can't do that. It's too difficult to defend. So it makes sense now that more teams will see it in a little bit of a different way. But still, the kind of players they have, I don't think I'd be truly surprised if they got any team on their schedule.